All right, well, we might as well, we're already recording, so let's go ahead. Why don't you shout out your business?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to be here. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
My first business we'll probably talk about is VRHQ, Virtual Reality Headquarters, and that is our virtual reality arcade here in Wintersville, Ohio.
Okay, and do you have a website, Facebook?
Yep.
Okay.
It's www.vrhq.biz. That's B-I-Z at the end. And our Facebook is VR Headquarters.
Okay.
At VR Headquarters. So that's really exciting. It's kind of something that's not expected in an area this small.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be able to bring it to Wintersville and give it to the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, I actually just had I was at Rough Creek, and the girl that is working the counter I went to high school with, we bullshit for a minute every time I go in there. And I was telling her about you coming and that you had the place. She goes, "We have a fucking VR place?"
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she might be coming to see you soon because she's
cool.
very intrigued.
There's like 40 experiences. You can go scuba diving. You can do Google Earth and go anywhere on this entire planet. You can do street views, and it feels like you're literally there.
Really?
If you were going to go on a vacation and you've never been there and you really kind of wanted to see the layout, you could literally walk the streets.
Yeah.
You could see like, oh, I'm definitely eating at that cafe. Like, I'm definitely going to go check out that overlook.
Really?
It's amazing. I mean, amazing. I could spend the entire day on there. I have I call him a kid. He's like 22 years old. He's a kid in Africa, and I mentor him. He's a businessman, and he found me on an entrepreneur page I'm on, and I'm asking him like, what's it like over there, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, you know what? I kind of want to see for myself. So I just jumped into Google Earth, and I went to Omar, Africa, and I walked the streets, and I got to see there's like this fort way up on a hill that overlooks the ocean. And I was able to go up to that fort and look around from the fort. It was super cool and just gives you, like
That's
that.
so crazy.
It's crazy. The technology is just wild. Everybody thinks it's just pure games.
Yeah.
Of course there's games. There's shooters. There's puzzles. There's all types of stuff.
Well, games and porn is what people think of.
Yep, absolutely. And so many people come in and ask me about porn. And I'm like, that's not this shop, buddy.
Yeah, you're at the wrong place.
Yeah, you're at the wrong place for that. So
it's just so funny how porn just seems to take over anything technology-wise.
Yeah, well, actually, if you want to kind of be optimistic about it, I think everybody knows that virtual reality has a foothold and it's just going to grow from here.
Yeah.
But once porn adopts a format, it's almost guaranteed.
Right. That's just so crazy.
Yeah.
It's just so wild to me.
It really is. But it's the new medium, right? So like,
what, VR?
VR.
Yeah,
It truly is. So like, you have people that books were the medium for a long time. People are reading by candlelight at night, and then the computers come along and people could do things on a computer. But then the internet came along, and that really became the medium through which everybody communicated.
Yeah.
And
you almost don't need phones anymore.
Yeah, and VR is absolutely next.
Yeah.
VR and AR, augmented reality. Mm-hmm. Those will be the next mediums.
I truly believe it. I want to go back real quick to you could just walk the streets of anywhere using Google Earth, because I've actually never been on a vacation.
Oh, wow.
So that might be something
that gets you to go on one.
or just cool to do. Like,
yeah.
Hold on. I've been to like a lot of different countries, but only because I was in the Air Force. So
okay.
I spent some time there, but I always had to, work. It wasn't a vacation.
It wasn't vacation. But you still got to see, and I guess that's the part that I was like, oh no, you got to get out of the valley. And see some stuff. So that's cool. You got to see some stuff, but yeah, you can check stuff out, man. I could spend hours and hours and hours in there.
That's so crazy. Actually, before you, I was thinking, except for we had to do this at 1:00 today, and I had work last night till 3. I was like, man, I should try to swing by there beforehand just to check out some of the stuff,
get an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm extremely intrigued by VR. And, you said we're all going to be going to, even augmented reality. So is that like Ready Player One?
No, so VR is pretty much Ready Player One, and that's getting crazy. We have a tack suit. I don't pull it out too often because it has to be charged, and I don't kind of trust. It's a $700 suit.
Yeah.
So I don't really trust kids to use it that much. But you zip up a suit, and then there's motors in the front and the back, and then if you get shot in a video game, you'll feel where you get hit.
Oh shit!
Right.
Just like the
right,
movie.
Yeah, and then what's really cool about that, and what's so hard for people to understand is once you go into VR, this world is literally gone.
Yeah.
You're not in this world anymore. You're in that world. And then, so when we first started, like way back in the very beginning, we had our cords running on the floor. You know, it comes out of the computer, runs on the floor, and goes up your back to your to the headset. But then you constantly have to be stepping over the cord, and you have to you have to be cognizant of it the whole time.
Right. You want to make sure the people that are coming to see you aren't tripping over a cord.
Right. And but they feel it on their, like, up against their legs, so they're stepping over it.
Right.
It's just one thing that pulls you back into this world, into the real world.
Right.
So ours are run through cables on tension pulleys.
Okay.
So that you can move anywhere, but then when you go back to center, it pulls all the cord back up to the ceiling.
Nice. That's awesome.
It's awesome. And so because of that, you get full 360-degree movement, and nothing tethers you to this world.
Yeah. How big is the room you're in?
So it's a really big room. We only do one person per room. So one thing, this is kind of important to me to say, I don't feel that technology is being used well, right?
Okay.
I have a lot of principles that I'm afraid of and I'm worried about. So communication between people, like we're sitting here talking and we're making eye contact, and I can read your body language, and I can hear the inflections in your voice.
Right.
And so all of that is communication.
Yeah.
Right. And so the words that we actually choose to use make up about 7% of communication.
Oh, shit.
Right.
Yeah.
The rest is inferred from body language, facial features, tonality of voice.
Yeah.
All of that.
Actually, speaking on this, I should probably bring up how we even ended up having you in here. It seems like me and you, we were on Facebook going back and forth about information. What's the word I'm looking for? We were going back and forth on them trying to track your every movement and everything about you, all your information and conspiracy theories. And for whatever reason, me and you were not on the same page.
But mostly agreeing.
Yes. Yeah. So we could. It was a bad way to communicate because we weren't.
We're using words.
Yeah, we were using just words, which you just told us is only 7%.
7%.
And we were struggling in the conversation, and I think we both thought at one point that we were attacking the other, and it was like, you know what? Let's just sit down and talk about this.
Sure, because then the 93% of the rest of communication comes in, and it becomes easy.
Yeah.
So when you send a text message, be aware that you have stripped away 93% of total communication.
Yeah.
That's just not cool, right?
No.
And then the second part to
So
that...
it's not a place to have any type of serious conversation.
None. It's, I'll be at the store at 2.
Right. Yeah.
That is what texting is truly for. If you don't want to get into hang-ups and get messed up with people...
I'm running late. I'll be there in 15.
Absolutely. And that's what people need to get from this, right? Well, so then here's where the problem really becomes compounded. Children are now texting.
Yeah.
Right? So people who have not fully formed a social dynamic and understand a social dynamic between human beings are learning to communicate with 7% of communication and then lie about their feelings through emojis.
Yeah.
Because if I put a smiley face emoji on there, you have to assume that I'm smiling at it.
Right.
But I could have been uneasy about it, not know what to say, feel weird, so I just throw that smiley face up there.
Right, you throw it out there like, hey, they can take it as a joke if they want.
Right. It's all lost.
Yeah.
Obviously, sarcasm doesn't translate.
Yeah.
So there's so many reasons why this new technological age is stripping an ability for humans to actually, interact well.
And communicate.
And communicate away.
You know, I've always said that I think that this has actually hurt human contact more than it has helped, but I never had numbers like that, and that really makes sense. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
So, but I'm a technologist and I'm a futurist, right?
Yeah, right.
My brain stays 5 to 10 years out at all times. I'm always thinking about trends and what do today's trends translate into the years in the future. That's where my brain stays. So, how do I reconcile the two? Being pro-technology, but understanding that it's wreaking havoc in society.
Yeah.
So I feel a heavy responsibility to employ technology in a responsible, healthy way.
Yes.
So most virtual reality arcades are set up where they have a bay or an area where one person can go in and enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
But that's further separation from your group, from everything around you. It's back to isolationism, which is the other part, which I didn't mention. You know, whenever you go out to dinner, if you look around, everybody's on their phones.
Yeah, it's
right.
Crazy.
People don't interact even with the people that they're with anymore.
Yeah.
So technology is removing us from society. So the one thing I did was we built one headset in a room and that room will have a very, very nice futon or couch. And so the idea behind that is we really wanted to encourage groups to come in, families to come in, and everybody take turns.
Right.
So we have one, it's Doodle VR.
And they can watch the other person do it.
On the television.
Yeah.
And so they can also see whatever's in that person's 90-degree frame of view. Now, the person in VR gets, it's like 110 or 115 degrees.
So the couch is in a separate room?
No.
Oh, it's in the same room.
We just made sure that there's enough area for the person to play. And then in virtual reality, when you have the headset on, we have built a fence inside of VR. You can go through it, of course, but
right.
It just helps to keep you in your boundaries so that you
not
don't hit a
running
wall, you don't hit where the people are, and it works pretty much. But my idea was, like, so Doodle VR, you can actually, it's Pictionary. The person in VR draws. So they go over to a stump. It's like a campsite. They go over to a stump and they can pick up a card. We can't read the card in the room, but they can.
Yeah.
So then they draw it, and everybody in the room has to guess what they're drawing.
Okay.
If they get it right, they throw it in a bin, and they get a point. If nobody can guess it and it's too hard to draw, they can throw it in the campfire, and it gives them a new card.
Yeah.
But that's an ability for the entire room to be engaged, having fun all together.
Right.
And then kids get the biggest kick out of seeing their parents in VR.
Really?
Well, they never expected their parents to play video games or do anything like that. So just when they put the headset on, the kids are just like, they love it. They love seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the parents feel that extra connection because the parents will enjoy the games. Whatever they're doing, the parents will enjoy those too. And so they kind of, it's like that moment of like, video games are cool again. Like, we're all having fun as a family doing some video game stuff. So I really wanted to encourage the ability for families and friends,
group interaction,
to come in and have group interaction, not soloism, not isolation.
Yeah.
So that was a really big deal for me. So that's how our rooms are set up. Now, we do have a green screen room where we can record some. It's called mixed reality. It's basically, it records the virtual reality, but the camera in the room will then put the human being in the environment.
Right. So you can go back and watch it.
You can watch yourself in the space, moving, ducking, dodging bullets, doing things.
Not just in a room, but in the actual space.
Yeah, in the actual game, so we can record you as the action star.
That's pretty cool.
It's really cool. So that room does not have a couch. That one is more just one person. It's not meant for a bunch of people to be hanging out in.
Yeah.
So it's a tighter room too. It's a little smaller. But that was an add-on that really helped us do a lot of marketing and stuff like that. But the rest of the place is set up specifically so that people will group up and have fun.
When I feel like even for advertisement purposes, stuff like that, you should be able to sometimes rent out that green room just for an extra source of income. Sure,
and anybody can. So if anybody has a purpose or a reason to, use the green screen room, you can do that. So it's pretty cool. And it's green. We did the whole room. I painted the whole room, the whole floor, like every piece of it's green. Yeah. You walk in there like, whoa. And it's really cool.
Have you reached out to like News 9 to tell them that you have this capability?
Yeah. So News 9, they do the sports challenge.
Yeah.
So it used to be Kate Seifert. She has moved on to another agency, another network. I challenged her to a game called Beat Saber that won the 2018 VR Fitness Award.
Okay.
And I challenged her to Beat Saber for the sports challenge. So
nice.
She came over and we filmed it and we did the sports challenge and I kicked her butt. But I play the game all the time. It was her first time, and so she had to do it on hard, and I was used to expert.
Yeah.
And so she was like, "It's only fair if we do the same difficulty." Well, I didn't miss one because I'm so used to doing it on expert.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
But she was a great sport. She had a ton of fun. It was an awesome episode.
That's cool.
So,
because I've recorded commercials at News 9, and they have just literally like a green screen, just like one little thing, and I had to stand in front of that so they could put stuff in the background. It just seems like it'd be, I mean, maybe the travel and whatnot is too much, but it seems like it would be good for them to do commercials like that in that space. It just makes sense to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. So we opened the arcade up, and super exciting, and we got all the games, and at that point I only had one business, so I could spend a lot of time like playing the games and like learning how to teach people how to play the games. Everybody, it's cheap. It's $20 for a solo hour. If somebody comes in by themselves, it's $20. If you come in and share the room, again, we're trying to encourage that behavior. It's only $10 per hour per person.
Oh yeah, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that. I mean, it's a fantastic price. So So, but the thing is, people are still paying by the minute, so to speak, right? I mean, it's per by the hour, but you could break it down. But so if people aren't having fun, they're immediately like, this is time wasted.
Right.
So I had to know pretty much all the games and everything so that I could keep people in the action all the time.
Yeah.
Get them over any humps, all that stuff. So
it's just like any business. You need to know the insides and outs in order to sell it.
Yep. So I was doing that.
That's why I drink bourbon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The only reason.
Yeah, it's out of love or anything.
No. I'm allergic to alcohol.
That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, and it's something that developed over time. I get super sick if I drink it. But I used to be able to, so I know how enjoyable it can be.
Yeah.
And I have to completely refrain. So it stinks.
In some ways, that's a blessing too, though.
But I never really abused it. So
yeah, because man, being hungover sucks.
Yeah, and everybody says the older you get, the worse it gets. So
yeah,
the older I get, the less I can even do it.
You'll lose a day to it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No problem, no problem. So while I was in that process of learning, at first it was just the games we had, but then I start expanding my awareness to well, what else is out there that we don't have, that we don't offer, and I started to come across educational titles.
Right. I remember you talked to me about this briefly at Scalise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the educational titles, I mean, some really, really in-depth educational stuff like frog dissection.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So you go in, there's a teacher in there with you, and there's a frog on the table, and you have to put the frog on a little tray, and it's one of those trays that has that soft insert inside of it so that you can put the pins in, and then you gotta there's all your tools, and you pick up your scissors and you cut your frog open, and then you pin it open, and then you pull out the organs, and she tells you what all the organs are, what they're used for.
And you don't actually have to hurt a frog.
You don't have to hurt a frog, but I don't know if you've ever dissected.
I have.
The formaldehyde, man, that smell is just disgusting, and it's slimy.
Pretty gross in general.
Yeah, pretty gross in general, right? So a lot of people and a lot of kids don't want to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But what if they kind of like it, but just don't like that aspect?
Right.
Right now, so this could help them.
Almost anybody would sign up to do the dissection without actually having a you know what I mean?
Sure.
I can't see who would say no to that.
Sure.
Oh shit, let's figure this out.
Yeah, so then
you're squeamish, I guess.
Yeah, but it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy for it's really easy to deal with. And then so if you wanted to be a biologist, maybe at some point you do have to do an actual dissection, but you can figure out that you love biology first.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So we can get kids hooked, so to speak. And so
and PETA's got to love this idea.
Yeah, right? So maybe I need to call them. So
you got paper over there. Make a list.
Yeah, make a list. So the dissection is that's just one. We have engineering. We have electricity. You can build circuits, and you have a little breadboard, and you have to put in your power supply and your wires, and then you have to wire something up, and then you flip a switch, and if it doesn't come on, well, you didn't wire it right. You got to go back to the drawing board and figure out where you went wrong. So there's circuitry. I think I already said engineering, dissection. There's art. We have a lot of art, and the art is really cool. So we have painting and drawing, but you're painting in a 3D space.
Yeah.
Just in open air.
Right.
You're just painting whatever you want. You can also paint with animations. So I could put snow all over this area, and then it would look like it was snowing in this area.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is the art implications of that are tremendous.
And I think that's huge too, because all they do is cut art budget at every school all the time.
Yep.
I do have a quick question. Obviously, anybody would enjoy any of these educational programs, probably. Mm-hmm. But is there a certain age group that they're geared towards, or labeled towards?
So that gets a little tricky. A lot of the manufacturers recommend that no one under 12 use virtual reality.
Okay.
So there's a lot of reasons with that. And I always tell people when they bring younger kids in, we say anybody under 8 should be spending their age in minutes in VR.
Okay.
Right? So really short doses with hefty breaks in between.
Yeah.
So that's what we encourage. Some parents take my advice. Some aren't concerned. The issue is that their heads aren't that wide. And so there's an IPD, an interpupillary depth or something. It's how far apart your pupils are. And so there's 2 sliding screens in there. Well, they can only get so close.
Yeah.
And so if your eyes aren't in line with that, then your eyes aren't getting a clear, adjusted picture.
Okay.
And so long periods of time at that
Never even
exposure,
thought about that.
there's no tests yet. They're doing tests, but they haven't definitively found out that, yes, this is going to hurt eyes long term. No, it's not going to hurt eyes long term.
Yeah.
So we recommend that, under 8 years old, super low dosages, 10 to 12, like 8 to 12, we don't really think it's that big of a deal. I still warn people.
Right.
But so most things are designed from the manufacturer's perspective from 12 and older.
Okay.
But we've had kids, 6 years old and they're painting.
Yeah.
Again, short bursts, very short bursts, just to
Right.
get the idea. And, at 6 years old, they're also more like painting on the walls.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like they're, doing a Picasso or, the Mona Lisa over here. But
And you'd much rather them paint on those walls than your walls at home.
absolutely, absolutely. So then I know for a fact that this is definitely 8, 9, 10 years old and above can grasp these concepts.
Okay.
And I recently met somebody that came into the arcade, and he said something. We talked about the educational side of things, and I was telling him that in the long term, I would like to basically franchise VRHQ, the arcade,
Yeah.
and put those in major cities all across the United States, and then have during the day, especially during the school year, it's all downtime.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's coming in. Nobody's bringing their kids in. You might get an adult here or there, but very, very rare because they're working. So you have time during the day. So we turn the arcade into a learning center during the morning, and that's run by VRIQ. And we can do field trips. We can do, just individual classes or bigger classes. What is it?
They can go check out Spain.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
And that's it. So, and then like Google Earth. So now you can teach them geography, but you could also teach them geology. You could take them to the Grand Canyon. You can take them to the fjords in Norway and Finland. You can do history. You could say this is this is the Normandy beach, and X amount of U.S. soldiers lost their lives here, battling the Nazis, trying to get a foothold into Europe. And so there's ways to incorporate education even into those that aren't specifically inherent in the program.
Right.
But we have one, and it's amazing. It's called Fantastic Contraption, and it's engineering in real time.
Okay.
So you have to build a vehicle that takes a little ball to its home. So its home is over there. It's a purple ball, and it's a purple blob over there, and it has to go back to the purple blob. But the vehicle you build is a fire and forget. You push a button, and it goes.
Okay.
You can't steer it.
Yeah.
And then if it wrecks or it can't make it, you push the button and it brings it back to you. And then you can make your adjustments. It didn't make it because I needed the wheels to be over here, or it needed to do this, or it wasn't tall enough, or it was top heavy, so it toppled.
Right.
Right? And so you can, in real time, shift your design, move it all around really easily, and then send it again. And so kids are learning things like center of gravity, and they're learning physics, even if they don't
And
understand.
just
Problem solving.
Yeah.
And just basically being dedicated to getting a job done, right? So keep working on something until you actually figure it out and complete it. That's a really big one too. So they don't understand that they're learning physics,
Right.
but they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was telling my friend that my new friend that I thought what my goal was to basically bring in entertainment into areas, but my real goal is to have the education be there. So it's almost like I'm disguising
Entertainment.
the education.
Yeah.
I'm like, bringing it along. And he said, that's like when you hide the mashed potato or hide the broccoli in the mashed potatoes. So your kids will just be smashing the mashed potatoes and they don't realize they're eating broccoli.
All right.
And I love that analogy because it really is truly kind of what I'm trying to do.
Well, and honestly, kids, I'm sure they'd be more prone to learn that way than just sitting in a classroom with. I can't imagine an argument for that.
There isn't.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So you can get them over that hump of that mental hump of like, man, I don't want to learn.
Yeah.
They want to. As soon as they see the headset, they're like, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
What's happening? Like,
Yeah,
what's
what's
this?
going on in here?
Like, this is how you're going to learn today. We have some really fun educational games for you. They hate when I use the word educational, but once they get in, it's gone. Like they're not concerned
Right.
at all. It's truly awesome. We get kids in there. I've seen some pretty special things.
Yeah, that's good. That's just, it's wild.
We work with the alternative school. So Steubenville City Schools has an alternative school.
Okay.
If kids are bad, like really bad, they get it's basically instead of expelling them, they get sent to the alternative school.
Oh, okay.
At the alternative school, they have a desk. They sit at their desk all day. There's no going between classes. These are kids that can't handle like the social pressures of going between classes. They're going to get in trouble. They're going to get in a fight, or they're not going to go to the next class, or whatever. So they have to be monitored.
They probably should have sent me to an alternative school. I had a problem getting to class.
Yeah. Sometimes I did too. But these kids, it bums me out sometimes. I think a lot of them have really bad home lives, and it translates into their scholastic career. One kid in particular, I'm going to tell you a story. This was really special to me. He's in 7th or 8th grade, high difficulty of reading, writing. The teachers have kind of written him off. Life's kind of written him off. And so when he goes to school, he puts his head down. He doesn't really participate. He basically is there, but you can't force him to do anything. And he's comfortable to just be washed out of society. And, when the kids first come in, and especially this group of kids, a lot of kids, when they come in, they're excited. These kids are like, well, what's next? Like, what's this?
Yeah.
And he was real shy and real reserved and didn't want to talk. But I constantly just kept talking to everybody the same. I talk to anybody, and I'm pretty talkative. So I can win people over. Yeah. And the other part, too, is that the teachers bring them, and the teachers are the uncool ones because they're the teachers that are forcing learning on them.
Right.
But I'm the cool guy that owns the arcade.
Yeah.
And so I get to be buddy-buddy.
Gives you a step up.
It does. It gives me an extra way to connect with them where they don't feel that resistance to engage with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I always talk to them like normal, and I'd ask him questions like, oh, do you play games at home? Do you have a console? Do you play on a computer? And he likes console, and he plays Call of Duty and stuff like that. And so, that's how I got him to like open up and talk to me. So he was probably there, I don't know, 10 times, maybe 8 to 10 times. And on this time that he came, I said, today, guys, we're going to do a multiplayer escape room.
Oh, shit.
So everybody goes into a different room in our arcade.
Yeah.
But then you join back into the same room through virtual reality where you can all work on escaping this room.
Right.
So this escape room is not easy. It is not easy at all. There was a puzzle on the wall. It was funny. So I'll get to that. So the puzzles are very difficult. And these 3 kids are working on it together. And I'm not going to mention the boy's name, but he started to really show some critical thinking skills.
Oh, yeah?
He was excited to be in there. And he wanted to be in there. So the enthusiasm and the wanting to be there made it so that it was okay for him to open his mind and to start thinking critically and outside the box and
work with others.
And work with well, that's the next part. So not only work with others, he started leading the show. So now they're going through this thing and they're finding all. And I mean, so you find there's 2 keypads with one has numbers and one has letters, and that's how you got to get out of the first room.
Yeah.
So the one with numbers, I think that's the first one you do. You have to get. There's a cipher on the wall. There's a pattern on the wall. There's a shelf with hats, and each one of the hats has a symbol on it. And then there's a lockbox, and you have to find a date on one of the pictures to get the code to open the lockbox. So he found the code to open the lockbox. Once he opened the lockbox, there was a diagram that explained it gave you numbers associated with the symbols on the hats. Okay. And then you have to use the cipher on the wall to figure out which hat it wants you to do in order. Then you have to match the symbol to the letter.
I'm already lost.
That's what I'm saying. And this kid figured it out. Now, in the meantime of figuring that out, meanwhile, let me say this. He had it right, and I was telling him that he was wrong because I didn't get it. And then finally, I'm like, wait a minute. You're right. I'm wrong. I'm like, buddy, you're doing great. Keep going.
Yeah, and stop listening to me.
Right. So then they start finding all these little ticket stubs. Yeah. And the ticket stubs have a little code on the bottom, and nobody knows what they're for. So they're just dropping them where they find them, And he says, hey, everybody, when you find these stubs, come over and put them on this box. I guarantee you we're going to need them later.
Yeah.
So now he's directing traffic.
Yeah. And of course he's right.
Right. And the teachers are standing there with their jaws dropped, asking, who is this kid?
Yeah. I thought you were actually pointing at something.
No.
I was like, oh, shit.
No. They're like, who is this kid?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
because they don't recognize him,
No.
even though they've been working with him forever.
he has critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
He can do it.
Great critical thinking
Yes.
skills. Because what you were saying, I was lost.
Right. He has to be in a situation where he wants to learn something.
Yeah.
But if he is, you can't stop him.
Yeah.
So I think that was a moment for them where they were kind of like, holy moly, what's going on at VRHQ right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was a really special moment for me. He couldn't wait to come back. He was excited when he left. It was a side of him that no one in that room had ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has seen that side of him. Because
Yeah.
I know it isn't at home either.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know? And so it undoubtedly works.
Yeah,
It undoubtedly
and
works.
I mean, a kid that he was an alternative school, so a kid that basically society had given up on a little bit came into your establishment and showed just boundless potential.
Yes.
That's
That
awesome.
has been lost on society. Nobody knew.
Yeah,
We
that's-
found the diamond in the rough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They've pretty much given up, and then all of a sudden here he is running the show in a escape room that I'm pretty positive I wouldn't be able to figure out.
It's tough.
Yeah,
Adults ask for there's hints, and adults need the hints all the time.
I really want to do it.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of them too. So that was really cool. It really was. I've had other examples too of knowing for a fact I'm reaching kids,
yeah.
and knowing for a fact we're breaking them out of a little bit of a shell.
Well, and I think that's awesome, man. I mean, to me, that's really contributing to society because I think a lot of the world's problems today could be solved with better education.
They can.
And like a lot of the problems we're dealing with right now can be solved with better education.
They can.
And there is a problem with getting kids to want to go to school and to want to learn and all that. And you know, this maybe could really unlock a lot of that.
I have quite a lot of ideas for the future.
Yeah. You said there's like some crazy stuff that's going to happen here in the near future, right?
Yeah.
With VR?
No. Have you ever heard of the fourth industrial revolution?
No.
Okay. We are currently already underway.
Okay.
So you know what industrial revolutions are, correct?
Well, it's basically when industry changes.
So the first industrial revolution was steam,
Yeah.
right? So they figured out that with steam they could make things move, and that led to motors.
Right.
So you could have steam motors, things like the cotton gin and all types of stuff like that. Locomotives, right? Steam power.
Mm-hmm.
So then electricity came along.
Yeah.
And once electricity came along, it changed the game, right?
Yeah.
So that was the second industrial revolution. Now they combine, even though there was a gap, they combine computers and internet as the third industrial revolution.
Okay.
Now you can do commerce all over the world instantaneously. Obviously, complete game changer.
Right. Complete game changer.
Complete.
The world is not even
Remotely the same.
Yeah.
So now we are about to we are currently undergoing the fourth industrial revolution. That is the merger of artificial intelligence, robotics, and the human mind.
Okay.
All right, so it is well underway.
Like Neuralinks.
Neuralinks. I mean, so some of the merger between the mind and the brain or the body, and that's coming. That also goes back into the chips,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's augmenting what humans can do
Right.
in a digital setting, in a digital world. So people think of artificial intelligence like Skynet. They think it's this thing that one day is going to come that is like fairy tale, going to be the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence algorithms are running all the time behind the scenes.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
They are influencing human behavior, and they are changing the way humans do things, even on a subconscious level that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into this later, but big companies that do data mining or purchase large amounts of data as well literally know more about you than you know about you.
Yeah. Well, just because you're not paying enough attention.
Well, yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
You need an outside observer, and there's a lot of things that we do that it's more habitual and pattern based, and we don't realize we're doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Right, and so it leads us to have emotional conditions and emotional states. They understand why. We don't. They do.
Yeah.
And they also know how to exploit those and manipulate those once you're in those states.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is major. So the fourth industrial revolution is going to scale automation. Scale it.
You need to like bring it down
Make it
faster.
and at scale. So everywhere at once moving up together.
Yeah.
Right? Not just building one thing up, it's building it all up. So
Like building what up? Like you're obviously not talking about buildings and...
No, so the automation infrastructure. So I was doing a lot of the work with the educational stuff, and I started to look for grants, and Verizon was doing a grant. Now, we work with the county, the JCESC.
Okay.
And the Jefferson County Educational Service Center. The JCESC, they help all the schools in the district to get grants, get funding, get buses, do all types of stuff. So I had gotten a hold of them, and we have a relationship, and we were starting a relationship. And so I found a grant from Verizon that they were giving out $2 million by the end of the year for education, technology and education. So I requested... I tried to get the grant for us at first, but they only work with educational institutions. So I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, let me get some of the places around here some of that money, and then they can buy some of my services or maybe other services. I don't care as long as it's benefiting the kids, right?
Right.
So I arranged a meeting between high-level executives at Verizon and the JCESC. They came to my arcade, and I explained to them at the time what my idea was. And I was hoping that Verizon would give us enough phones to go into classrooms for something called Google Cardboard. They're little cardboard things that you can slide the phone in, and
okay.
There's one button.
Yeah, and you can kind of buy them at Walmart, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's not that big of a deal. It's really not cutting-edge VR stuff, but there's some cool things that you can do, and there were some cool examples that I had read that I could tell that you could still make a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
One lady, there was something, she was a teacher, and she had a kindergarten class, so kindergartners. And they used the Google Cardboard, and it was a thing about the rainforest. So they get to see there. It feels like, they're looking around and they feel like they're in the rainforest. They can see monkeys and trees and snakes and, the whole nine. And then the last minute of it was only like 5 or 6 minutes. The last minute showed the total deforestation. People came in and logged it all out.
Oh, fuck.
Right. These kids were pissed.
Yeah.
What'd you do to the monkeys?
Yeah.
What happened to the birds? Like crushed, right?
Yeah.
So then they put the VR away and they go back to the book. And every kid is looking at the teacher like, what's going on with this rainforest I heard about?
Yeah.
It's an arbitrary term to a kindergartner without VR.
Yeah.
The rainforest means nothing. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, every one of those kids for the rest of their life had an indelible mark put on them of what the rainforest is and why is humanity treating it this way.
So how good are those things?
They're not great. They're okay. They're not great.
Yeah.
No, it's not meant for sophisticated VR. But it's a tool, and that tool could be used.
Yeah.
So, and it's being phased out completely. So this was at the beginning of VRIQ. So VRIQ wasn't even started yet. This was probably, I would say, in maybe March of 2019. So it was over a year ago. And in that year, Google Cardboard is almost non-existent. The phones just don't have the processing power,
the capability. I remember the first VR thing I ever used was for Sega. Do you remember the Sega VR?
I don't. A blocky.
It was a big old thing you put on your head, and it was just like regular video game. It sucked. It was terrible.
Sure.
Yeah, but sorry. I just popped in my head when you were talking about those boxes.
So, Google Earth definitely, or Google Cardboard is definitely pretty much phased out for the most part.
Yeah.
But so that's what brought that meeting in. And so... turns out that they were only willing to give the technology grant if the educational, it's mostly schools, but obviously it has to be education based and they have to be nonprofit before they'll work with them. So the JCESC qualified, but they had to be implementing 5G technology. If it wasn't 5G, they weren't giving them.
We need to have 5G here.
Right.
Yeah.
So it ruled them out and they didn't get it. But for a little while at least, Verizon was very intrigued with what we were doing,
which is cool,
because if we can get, they looked at it, simply economically, if we can get phones from Verizon put into every school, the data cost for schools will go through the roof, and Verizon can make all that money.
Yeah.
So Verizon wanted me to go into all the schools and piggyback off of me, and then they literally wanted a partnership, but only if I could get thousands of schools.
Yeah.
Right, which, maybe one day, but not today. But it's
a daunting task.
Right. So, long story. but I don't mind because it really does give a lot of backstory into VRIQ and the mission of what we're doing. But
I have to say that still, no matter what, brought a lot of light to what you're doing to people in this area.
Yeah, and it forged the union between us and the JCESC, and that's how we got the alternative kids schools to come.
That's awesome.
They came once a week, every week. Yeah. So I got to work with those kids for the better part of the school year. Obviously, COVID put the kibosh on it at the end, but I got a lot of experience. I got a lot of time working with those kids. It was a beautiful, amazing experience.
That's really awesome.
So this relationship with Verizon, where they were at least considering me as a partner for a while, they invited me to a very, very selective 5G conference in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
There was literally probably about 100 attendees.
All right.
Now, do you know what 5G is?
I mean, I know it's, basically not a space isn't even the right. It's hard for me to define, but it's a highway for you to send information to and from, and as far as I know, that's really about it. That's all I got.
It's essentially internet at about 100 times the speed currently.
Okay. Faster than like your Wi-Fi and stuff like that.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Unquestionably.
Okay.
To the point where we're going to get into and it already exists, but right now there's cloud storage.
Okay.
Right? You can store something on the cloud.
Yeah.
And you can get your pictures later.
Yeah.
We're moving into the world of cloud processing, so that the processing of the computer will take place remotely, and you will be streamed the output, the data.
So weird.
So you'll be playing the highest level game that they have right now at 60 frames a second with no computer in your home.
Yeah, so like no console, no computer.
All you need is a controller.
That's
weird.
it,
right?
It's so weird.
It's already existing. There's a company called Shadow that's doing it. Google has Arcadia, and they say that they've completely worked out the latency issues. So that there's no latency. If a gamer pushes a button to shoot somebody, he doesn't want milliseconds of latency. He wants to shoot somebody, right? Because that's how he's good at a game. And so obviously, if your computers are in California, there's latency involved. And
right.
So they say they've worked it out, but I've heard that it's not completely worked out. So, but 5G will solve this problem completely.
It's just
and then some. But so here's the thing. 5G.
But somewhere there has to be a hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just a 5G network, and then there's that infrastructure somewhere that's you buy processing power of computers, and it's kind of cool because then you're not limited. Like right now, if you buy a computer, you get that much processing power.
Right.
Right? But you could buy that computer on a cloud, but if it's not enough or you want more, you could just always add.
Yeah.
And you just add processing power.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. There's a lot of cool stuff to it, but so here's the problem. They are pitching 5G as being instantaneous internet so that you will have no lag when you're watching your videos on your phone. You'll never buffer anything ever again. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to be instant. It's going to be great.
But I still have to buffer sometimes.
Well, yeah, but once they have 5G, right? Oh, yeah, I have to buffer. Your brain. I get you. So here's the problem. 5G is not for human beings at all. It's not a network for humans. It's not for us.
What do you mean?
5G is a network so that artificial intelligence can talk to robotics in real time with no latency.
Okay.
That's all it's for. It's being disguised as something that benefits humans when it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't care if I have 2 seconds or 10 seconds total in a 4-minute video of buffering.
Right.
Like I can live with that, right? Yeah. I don't need instant all the time. But robots and artificial intelligence do.
Yeah. Good. Well, because no matter what, like you were talking about, basically like Neuralink type stuff. Mm-hmm. We're already like that. There's just a slower process between, because you have everything in your hand with your phone. Mm-hmm. You have everything, all the information in the world, any video, whatever, and it's just a slow process from the phone to you because it's not directly connected.
You are the bottleneck.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
So, and there's nothing we can really do to fix that at this point,
No.
unless Neuralink comes in and we start connecting shit to our brain.
Yes.
But that's what you mean by that we can't even use that properly. It's made for AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's completely made for it. So here's the deal.
Man, I need to be able to talk better.
Yeah. Well, you just get the Neuralink. You'll be good.
I'll be good to go.
You'll be good to go. So I went to this conference, and of course I'm super interested in tech. I'm super interested in the future. That's where my brain's at anyway.
Yeah.
And this is a 5G conference, so they're showing all of the ideas behind 5G, but they can only think of so much, the people that are designing these networks. So what the whole thing really was is they pulled in a bunch of industry leaders into that meeting and then asked us, how would you use 5G?
Yeah.
So they can understand how all these little niches would use 5G so that they can build the platform stronger based on how it would be intended to be used.
Right. But really they want to use it for AI.
Sure. So so
they're using you to help disguise it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So they said if you go through every station, okay, so they gave me a 5G bracelet.
Okay.
And I was then monitored as I went around the entire space, and they had to be sure that I went to every single booth, and if I did, I got a prize.
Okay.
It was a $200 pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Oh, shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So pretty happy about that, right? They engraved the case with my initials. Like, it's pretty sweet.
Nice.
So I wanted to go to every booth anyway, but once I found that, I'm like, yeah, well, sign me up. So
yeah.
I'm going through.
Ray-Bans.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I'm going through, and the first one was like VR ping pong in 5G, and no latency. Everything's perfect, crystal clear. So that was cool. But I played VR all the time, so it wasn't like whatever, and it was kind of the same.
Wasn't really what you were there for.
So then the next one was a smart city, and they were showing a city that was being flooded during an emergency, and what a artificial intelligence 5G network can do. Now, we're also going to talk about the Internet of Things pretty soon.
Okay.
So the Internet of Things, so I can at least finish this story, they're going to put smart sensors on everything. Everything. Smart sensors. So that everything is relaying data at all times.
Yeah, so a fire hydrant,
telephone pole. So what's happening is, as the city is flooding, those Internet of Things sensors are getting wet, and they're broadcasting that data to the network, letting the network know that these streets are flooded.
Yeah.
So then the scenario they paint is that a woman is going into labor with complications, and she's called for an ambulance. So the artificial intelligence dispatches her the closest ambulance to her, that is then routed through the floodwaters in real time to get to her. And it's also an automated vehicle.
And she doesn't even have to really call anybody.
Right. Well, I mean, in the thing they said she called, I mean, there would have to be a way you'd have to notify somehow that she's in distress.
Right.
But then the automatic vehicle, the self-driving vehicle goes there. Now, while she's on the way back, there's screens that are in real time relaying her to the doctors that are waiting for her at the hospital so that they can start pre-diagnosing her problems and getting through some of these things as it's guiding her through a city in real time to make sure that she gets the best, fastest route. There was an area where they couldn't get data. Cameras were down. So it immediately dispatched a fleet of drones so that the drones could go in and start getting data so that they could continue to have data in real time. So that was that scenario. So
that's like all the sci-fi movies we watched as a kid coming to reality.
Wait till you hear this one.
Oh, shit.
So
golly.
And so they keep saying safety.
Yeah.
Safety. Unparalleled safety. You know, we can get this woman to the hospital in the best fashion possible. The most efficient, there is.
It's what the bad guys kept saying in RoboCop, too.
Right. and I'm telling you, so safety. So the next one I go to is a shipping dock, right? So it's a shipping port. So it was a mock-up scenario based on the port in Hamburg. The port in Hamburg, Germany, holds 1.8 million containers at any one point in time.
It's too many.
So what they're going to do is they're going to update the network to the 5G network. They're going to put an artificial intelligence in control of everything. And then they're going to put an Internet of Things sensor on every single container ship or every single container, right? And then what it's going to do is it's constantly going to be relaying data. It's this temperature right now. It's at this GPS location right now. At 5:45 p.m. yesterday, there was an impact. It took 5% structural damage. All of that will be relayed in real time, constantly updating the system.
How's it going to let them know the structural damage?
Well, I mean, I'm making that up to some degree,
Okay.
but it can figure out like certain.
Right.
It could estimate damage.
And it can give a lot of information.
Sure,
period.
but it could estimate damage, and I guess that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
Because obviously, if a container ship dropped, that's what they're worried about.
Right.
If the stuff is damaged inside.
Right.
So it can assess that information, and it can see if it's getting too hot, if it shouldn't be. Or
Okay, I see what you're saying. It can make an educated guess.
Sure, but I mean, temperature. If it has to stay within a threshold, and it's
Right.
getting to that threshold, it can tell the artificial intelligence. Well, it can be telling the artificial intelligence that information, which then the artificial intelligence can decide in real time to move it.
Yeah.
I can put it somewhere where it will be cooler, right? So now trucks come in, right? And so right now, if a truck's going to go into the port, they drive in. The driver goes to an office. He fills out the requisition form, sends it over. They got to go find his container in a 1.8 million container yard.
Yeah, take forever.
It's going to be a minute, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool because people have to sleep as drivers. They
Yeah.
have to. So he'll sleep in the cab of his truck, and they'll come get him when it's time. He goes over to the loading crane. It loads him up, and he goes.
Just doesn't it works for him, but it just doesn't seem very efficient.
Right. So
Yeah.
now, as the automated trucks are driving into the shipping port, they are broadcasting their data, their GPS location of where they are. The artificial intelligence is finding the shipping container while it's coming up, so that as the truck pulls under the loading crane, it is being dropped onto the truck, and the truck is on its way.
Yeah.
You can have trucks coming in the same direction and knowing exactly when they have to pivot or turn to miss each other within inches.
Right.
Because it's being literally controlled by everything.
Yeah.
And they keep saying like the safety will be unparalleled. Oh, it's monitored by a fleet of drones that when they're solar powered, but when their battery gets low, they return, which automatically sends off the next drone to take its position. The artificial intelligence can take control of any ship in real time. So if it sees two ships on a collision course, it will then grab both ships and steer them each appropriately so that they do not collide. So the safety.
Yeah.
Well, I said, of course it's safe. There's not a person on the dock.
Right. Where'd the jobs go?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the question.
Yeah.
And that's the question.
Universal basic income.
It's going to get really scary. So
Yeah. Real quick, what's this thing called again? The Internet of what?
the Internet of Things.
Of Things. Okay. Go
So it's already started, of course,
Yeah.
right? Because they have to. You ever hear the saying "frog in boiling water"?
No.
If you put a frog in boiling water, he'll hop right out.
Yeah.
If you put a frog in lukewarm water, you can raise the temperature a degree at a time, and he'll stay in and cook because he's cold-blooded.
Right.
He'll never know.
So that you're basically saying they're slowly rolling this out.
Slowly just ratchet it up because people will get used to it. If you do too much at one time, they freak out. There's ramifications. What's going to happen to the jobs? Everybody gets worried about it. They might put some sort of resistance to it. So
like hand a Neanderthal an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta break them in. So smart lights. They got the smart lights that'll play music. They'll light up when you come into your house or
like
or the
motion
room.
sensor.
Motion sensors, right? And it's not that big of a deal because it's not relaying that information.
Right.
But soon it's going to be relaying that information, so they'll know what time you go to the bathroom at night.
You walked into the bedroom to go to bed at this time.
At this time, right? You got up and you went for a snack at this time. You opened your smart refrigerator.
Yeah.
And now it even knows I took the milk off. I drank milk at 4 in the
Right, 'cause
morning.
it has pressure
sensors to let you know when you need to replace the milk.
Yeah.
Right? Because it'll print you a little shopping list based on when you're low on items in your refrigerator.
So fucking crazy. But you have to obviously buy all this stuff and decide to put it in your house.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Kind of. Right now you do.
Right.
But over time...
They could make it the only thing available.
Well, yeah. Over time, they're just going to all be smart devices.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the way it'll be pitched. The frog in boiling water. They're going to get us there. But right now, they have to introduce it as an option.
Yeah.
Right? So
and
that's
an
what's
expensive
happening.
option.
It will be an expensive option. That's why...
But then eventually, it'll probably end up being like most things where it's an expensive option. You're like, oh, man, I wish I could afford that. And then all of a sudden, the price gets cheap, and you're like, yes.
Yes. Well, and then there can also be
Bastards. I got to get rid of all these computers.
Right. So then they can add like really cool functionality. Like what if there was a washer that would put your clothes in your dryer and then run the dryer for you?
Yeah.
Right? So then it's a smart washer and dryer, but who doesn't want a smart washer and dryer? That's going to maybe it folds it when you're done.
Yeah.
Right? Who doesn't want laundry that I put in a thing and it folds it when I'm done?
I would actually, my biggest thing would be the folding.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind doing the rest. If something else would fold this for me, it'd be incredible.
Right. So they're going to make it so convenient and so awesome that you just want it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with phones.
Yeah.
We give up so much data and so much information about ourselves, but I want to know with certainty that I'm going to get somewhere, and I want a GPS to tell me that.
Right.
Right? I want to be able to look anything up on the internet in real time.
Well, and that's when and obviously I this was kind of what we got into. We were talking about the microchips, and I didn't say it specifically in the post, but I said microchip conspiracy theory, something, blah, blah, blah. But I was referring to people saying, like, they're going to secretly chip you with when you go get the vaccine.
Okay.
That's what I was referring to. But my reason for saying that wouldn't even be as effective is because with the phone, you're willingly putting all the information in there.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everything you do, everything you search,
That's
all
the problem,
of that,
though.
it's all monitored.
But that's the problem. You said the word willingly.
Right.
They need to be able to track what you're unwilling to give.
Yeah.
And so that's where a chip comes in. It
Right.
knows everywhere you ever went.
Yeah.
If I want to commit a crime, I can leave my phone at the house.
Right.
Right? If I have an accomplice, they can be sending out Facebook messages to give me an alibi, right? So there's ways to trick the system right now where if you had a chip in your hand, it knows where you went at all times.
Right.
You're just being tracked and monitored.
But the only way I think that has more effectiveness, or no matter what they would have, strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
But in order for the chip to be completely more effective, would be for you to willingly want it, because then they can do.
Sure.
Then they can make it do all the things.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But they're really, really good at getting you to ask for it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the same with
That's
the
why
phone.
we have all of this shit.
Right. That's the phone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We want it. Like,
that I believe will eventually happen.
we will ask for it.
Because you'll want to be able to go like this and use the force to open the door.
But here's where I want to get back to.
Because honestly, that's when I'll get it. I'm sorry. When I can use the force to open the door,
Yeah.
sign me up.
Sign
Give me the chip.
up. I want the force.
All right,
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Go ahead.
No, so then I went to the next station, right? And the next station wasn't insidious at all. Pretty cool. It was a device that I could put my hand on, my fingers on,
Yeah.
and I could move it. And it was moving a robot on the other side of the table that had fingers on the table, and it had that like that bed liner material for trucks.
Okay.
Like those, you know what I mean? The little bumped up things to give you a little bit of
groove,
a little
Yeah.
traction. So those were on the other side. So as the robot's fingers went over that, I could then feel that in real time. Little things were popping up,
That's crazy.
and so you need a 5G network so that there's no latency. If there's latency, your brain won't transmit because you're watching the fingers go over it.
Right.
And so as you're watching it on this screen, I'm feeling it in real time.
Yeah.
And if they have latency, you won't feel it in real time, and it breaks the illusion.
Yeah.
So the obvious implications were medicine, right? Doctors can be working on you remotely, but still feeling the inside of your body,
Right.
right? So super cool. I like that one.
Yeah,
So
it's really cool.
every station had a guy or gal, and they were there to, guide everybody through one at a time and explain what the technology was about and blah, blah, blah. So I'm talking to this guy, and he didn't have anybody else around at the time, and so because I got there really early, and I'm telling him, like, we're talking about the dock, the shipping port, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so he asked me what I do, and because that's what they wanted to know, right? What everybody did and how we could tell them what our niche was.
Yeah.
So he was asking me like what I do and kind of shooting shit, and I was explaining to him that virtual reality education is my number one passion, and so we're starting to educate kids in VR, and that's what brought me there. And I said, because of the fourth industrial revolution. I understand that when automation ramps up to the levels that they want it to ramp up to, it literally will lead to a reduction of about 40 to 50% of all jobs.
Right. It's
So-
a serious problem.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, we can expect 40 to 50% of jobs to leave the job market.
I'd like you to repeat that.
In the next 5 to 10 years, we will lose 40 to 50% of the jobs in the job market.
Because it's something that I've said multiple times that people need to be ready for, and we need to think about
Now.
Yeah, and we need to think about these things that some politicians put out there that people are like, oh, you're crazy, you're giving away. Like, listen, there's not going to be jobs soon, so we got to start trying some other stuff.
People tell me I'm crazy. They literally say, you're crazy. There's no way they will let this happen.
Oh, they will.
It's not being let happen. They're planning it.
Right.
It's being devised as we speak.
Yeah, because the people in power, it just makes them more money because it cuts down costs.
Labor, which is, back in the day, companies were happy to employ people.
Yeah.
They kept people around for a long time. They were excited to give them pensions and make sure that they lived good lives. And something happened between the 40s and 50s and now where I think of it as like we are units of labor. Yeah. And it is simply a cost to be reduced.
Right.
Right? And so humans aren't looked at as humans anymore. We're looked at numbers on a balance sheet.
Well, we've also, unfortunately, become really shitty employees, too. Like, it's hard to find good employees anymore.
I'll agree. Yeah. I will agree.
But still, this is not good, and people need to plan for it.
So what happens in 5 years? Let's say in 5 years it's already well begun and we're 20 to 25% down in jobs.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to kids that are graduating in 5 years? So right now when you go and you graduate, maybe you go to college, okay? Maybe you don't. I hope you do. If, let's say you did, you went to college. Well, now when you leave college, you are now entering the job market at an entry level. You might have a degree, but you're still an entry level. You haven't had any work experience.
Right.
You are now entering a competition between anybody else that is at your level and everybody else who has more experience than you.
Right.
So you're already fighting an uphill battle, and you have to have great credentials, and you have to have good test scores, and you have to have good, a good background that proves that I'm the one that should get this job.
Yeah.
But we cannot compete with artificial intelligence.
Not even remotely.
Not even remotely close.
Yeah.
You just can't. So now we're putting these kids in a situation where there's literally no competition. They have no chance to compete.
Right.
What do they do?
I think, like Elon was saying, I think his is a more sinister plot, but not his plot, but the plot of AI. Mm-hmm. But it's the whole reason he is working on Neuralink is because otherwise we're not going to be able to compete.
No.
Yeah.
And then the problem becomes that once artificial intelligence becomes as sophisticated as people think of it normally in their head, they will communicate with each other, and then their social artificial intelligence, right? But they're going to create a social structure and a social element where they rely on each other's skills.
Yeah.
Right? So if one has been designed to do one thing, it's going to lend that information to another one.
Yeah.
Okay? And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a point where it ramps up.
Yeah. It's
at a tremendous level, and human beings will be completely out of that entire conversation.
Yeah.
We will have zero idea. Zero. I mean, zero. Not 0.1, not 5%. I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. Zero. We'll have no idea what they're thinking, how they're communicating, or what they're talking about or their plans are.
Won't even realize they're doing it.
No. So if we don't have the Neuralink, we are completely out of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so Elon Musk is saying that we have to get the Neuralink so that we can stay in the conversation because we need to know what artificial intelligence is thinking.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Just like you said, 5 to 10 years, we could be. If people don't believe you when you say 5 to 10 years, we could be losing 40-50% of the jobs in the market. If you don't think that can happen that quick, Elon Musk is saying if everything goes right, he'll be putting the first Neuralink in a human being in 5 years. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know about you, but I trust Elon Musk because pretty much everything he says ends up he does.
Sure.
So, I mean, the guy quit college to become a rocket scientist. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
It's so insane.
Yeah. But he didn't want to be dumbed down by all those professors.
Right. Yeah. If they would have had VR school, he would have been there.
Yeah. Dang, I was just a little too late. Could have had Elon as a student.
Right. But hearing him talk about that stuff and actually watching the Joe Rogan interviews instead of just listening to him, you can see kind of how he reacts to things. Mm-hmm. It changes everything when I think about artificial intelligence and all that. And I have my deepest concern, because it's the most immediate concern, is the job market.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
People gave what was that presidential candidate's name? Yang, or is that his name? And he was coming up with the idea of universal basic income. People are like
shitting on him.
Communist. Yeah. Well, when half the fucking population is out of work and we don't know what to do about it, we're gonna wish that we had a universal basic income.
Unquestionably. And I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm not saying I'm against it. I can understand where we're gonna have to need it.
Mm-hmm. That's my thing. I'm not. Trust me, I don't want to just give away money. Like, I'm annoyed with this whole coronavirus pandemic and how we're giving away money. But I think in this fashion, we're doing it poorly. I think universal income is the most appealing to me, even over like some of Bernie Sanders' ideas, because it gives everybody the same starting point, which gives them the basic needs to survive.
Yep.
You know, it gives everybody that same starting point. Sure. Not one person, not... Like, doesn't matter how much money you make, doesn't matter how much money you don't make, you get this basic income. And to me, it puts everybody at the same starting point. Just make sure you have a roof over your head, food in your belly. And to
there's
me,
a lot of problems with it.
I understand there's problems with it, but compared to the other ideas put forth,
yeah.
you know what
starvation.
I mean?
It's a lot better than starvation.
Yeah, and some of Bernie Sanders' ideas, everybody isn't starting with the same amount. Sure. With welfare, everybody's not starting with the same amount. You know what I mean? Just certain people are getting free money.
Right. So one thing I want to impress on anybody that's actually listening, and this is the theme of my life. This is why I get all my inspiration to do what I do. And I am trying to reach students and children and change education. My goal is to literally change education on this planet for everyone. That's a pretty lofty goal. So if your student, if your son or daughter is not interested in school and not doing well in school, like, you need to figure that out. Yeah. You need to understand what you can do, because when I say these things, like 40 to 50%, people like think like McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like, and it's true. Like, McDonald's will be one of the ones. Like, there won't be somebody on the fry station. There won't be somebody on the burgers. There won't be somebody on drive-through.
Right.
It'll all be automated.
But it's probably going to be more blue-collar jobs.
Well, there's going to be one person there.
Yeah.
And he's going to be in charge of repairing any machines that go down.
Yeah.
That's it. He's just going to be a service technician. Right? So McDonald's will hire one service technician per shift.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and you can even notice that kind of stuff happening already just with the self-ordering screens.
Well, there's a burger flipping machine already.
I believe that.
You can lease it for $2,000 a month. It boils down with, plus after electricity, to about $3 per hour. It will flip the burgers.
Yeah.
So all these people that want $15 an hour to flip burgers, in a couple of years, there's no question you can forget about it.
Yeah.
But here's where the real problem.
And you've helped push it forward faster because you wanted $15 an hour.
Right. For an entry-level job. And I don't begrudge anybody that works at McDonald's. Like, work your ass off, get more skills, and figure out where you can plug yourself into society at a higher level.
It's just supposed to be a starting point. It's not supposed to be your finishing point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you want to be a manager and ride it out for a little bit longer, those skills are valuable too. Right? So, and I'm not disparaging anyone, but...
No, not at all.
We always need higher education.
And I need you to work at McDonald's. I like to have my food.
Yeah.
I don't knock any job. I just... If you don't have the drive to get out of your minimum wage job, we shouldn't be paying you more to stay there. That just doesn't make sense. You should have drive, figure out, like, hey, I'm good at restaurants, so now how do I do better at restaurants to get to a better spot in my life where I can make more money?
Or have an idea about your own. Start your own.
Start your own.
Do
Become
things.
an entrepreneur. You got to have that drive. Me giving you more money for no reason isn't going to give you any kind of drive.
No. More complacency.
Yeah.
But when I say that 40 to 50% of jobs will be removed from the job market in the next 10 years, people think I mean McDonald's.
Yeah. No.
Right now, artificial intelligence is between 11 and 12. It's like 11.8% better at reading X-ray for cancer than a human. So you take an X-ray technician, they went to school, they looked at X-rays, they got taught all the knowledge, but their experience is limited to how many X-rays they looked at. Artificial intelligence is being fed millions of X-rays to look through, to diagnose cancer. And so the problem is going to become, again, there's a safety. Well, of course, there's not a person on the lot, right?
Right.
But now they're going to say, well, if you don't want to do this, there's going to be 12% of people that don't get diagnosed with their cancer early enough for us to treat it, and those people are going to die.
Yeah.
Which
unfortunately is a valid point.
It is. But now you're putting me in the rock and the hard place, in between the rock and the hard place, because we need jobs.
Yes.
And we need humans doing work, but I don't want 12% of anybody to die. Like, I don't want people to die.
Right.
And here's the problem. That's now. So in 10 years or even 5 years, that it's going to be 40% better.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to have an argument anymore. It's just going to be like, well, then we have to have AI do it.
Yeah.
And we have to get rid of the job. And these are X-ray technicians. These aren't McDonald's workers. This
Yeah.
is skilled labor.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, even you can, to me, the ones, so many people work on, say, a dock. So many people work in a mill. To me, those are going to be even easier to replace by AI than it is an X-ray technician.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, those will be the first ones that get automated.
And those are still high-paying jobs.
They're still high-paying jobs. And a lot of people depend on them that don't go to college, that don't do this.
They feed families.
Yeah, and a lot of those people, I mean, we're a pretty tech-savvy society in general, but if you look at some of the less tech-savvy people, they have those kind of jobs, the dock workers and mill, just because of choice, and they don't have to use them for their living at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all those blue-collar jobs,
It's going to be tough.
I think those will be some of the first to go, because it's such, like you said, with the dock, you were just explaining this whole scenario where the trucks are missing each other by inches, and they're already finding that the something that normally takes hours is now going to take maybe an hour,
It's almost
less,
instant.
half hour, instant.
As the truck is pulling up, it's being lowered onto it.
Right. Like,
Instant.
So guess what? How many people are employed on a dock normally? I bet it's a lot.
Yep.
I bet they're not there anymore.
Yep. So it's a real problem. This is what keeps me up at night, if you were going to use that phrase. This is the thing that it's where I understand humans are going to run into the closest, like, true disaster. I mean, of COVID's here, it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah. But if you think this is depression, when 50% of the jobs disappear, what kind of depression is that going to be?
Sure. And it just, how do we make a society keep going when 50% of people don't work?
Yeah.
So there's a big problem between here and there, and I'm not even positive I have the answer, but I know that we don't have a chance if we don't get kids to fall in love with education.
Yeah.
Higher learning.
Yep.
And, when I was a kid...
And technology at this point.
Yep. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to use my calculator on my math test because my teacher said that I would not carry a calculator everywhere I went with me when I was an adult. She happens to be wrong. I have a calculator on my phone that goes with me everywhere I want to go.
I can actually just ask it the math question.
That's true.
And it'll just tell me.
It'll tell me. I don't even have to type it in anymore. Right. So now memorization is starting to fall into that same category, where I'm not saying you don't have to memorize things, but you don't have to memorize everything.
Right.
Times tables are going to be important. Math is going to be important. There's going to be some memorization we have to do. And we don't want the mind to get lazy. We want kids to memorize some things.
Yeah.
But the pursuit of knowledge is more important than memorization. Because as long as I'm interested enough to actually send a query out, I can get my answer now.
Yeah.
I have Google. I have the world's knowledge in my pocket at all times.
All times. Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
So we need to start directing education in a different way. We need to stop getting kids to being mindless drones that can spit out information. We need to get kids really interested in finding the information.
Yeah.
And being excited about that process.
Yeah, not just spitting facts at them, but having them find the facts.
Yes, and being curious. And sparking the curiosity as to why.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that I'd like to do in time, so Fortnite is a very popular video game. I'm sure most of your listeners are aware of Fortnite. You have to live under a rock not to. One of the things that Fortnite does exceptionally well is bells and whistles and dings. You go into this environment, you don't have any weapons, don't have any guns, and you got to go around, you got to find them all. And every time you do, it's like bling, 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 bling.
Yeah.
And it's triggering dopamine releases.
Right. It's like a reward mechanism.
It's a reward mechanism, but it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is kids are addicted to Fortnite, literally, because it's literally hitting the pleasure button of the brain. Like, be pleasured, be pleasured, be pleasured, be pleasured.
It's like giving a dog a treat.
It absolutely is, right?
Yeah.
So they don't want to ever stop. So what I would like to do is I would like to exploit that for education.
Okay.
We can then make games that do the same dings, bells, whistles, reward systems, but based on spelling or based on math.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we start getting kids to play these games that trigger the dopamine release center of the brain, we can then get kids excited about hitting level 100 in spelling.
Right.
Not level 100 in Fortnite.
Right.
I mean, of course, that's going to keep going, but
because games are fun.
Because games are fun, and they figured that out. But we need to figure out how to implement that into education.
Yeah.
And then the other side to it is emotions. I don't think that human beings, and that goes back to what we talked about originally with, losing all that communication through a text message.
Yeah.
I'm not assigning the proper emotional context to my conversation.
Because it's impossible.
I've lost too much communication to form a valid emotional response to it.
Yeah, you almost have to say, like, the message I'm about to send you is a happy one.
Yes.
And I'm excited.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then send the message. And then
Sure.
the message.
Absolutely. So, where was I going with that? So that the emotional context is not being built into our children. They're not understanding how to engage with people on that real level. So
you don't want to create sociopaths.
Right. So what I want to do is, this is just an idea. So, and I don't even care if somebody steals it. Just get it out there, right?
Yeah.
So or augmented reality, AR, that's when you wear glasses that allow you to see into this world. So you can see this world just fine, but there's a projector rim around the top that will put projections onto the lens that will fool your eyes into thinking that things are in this room.
Okay.
So he could be digital, not really here, but as long as I had my glasses on, he would be here. I pull him off, he goes away. Put him on, there he is again.
Yeah.
Right? Pokemon Go. Have you ever heard that game?
I played it briefly.
Well, you use your phone, and you hold your phone up, and your phone becomes an augmented reality device.
Yeah.
Augmented reality. So what I would like is for young children, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, maybe third, to have little pogs, little circle discs that have little
pogs like we used to play with back in the day.
But have little scannable QR codes on them. Right?
Okay.
And so they can have a happy one, they can have a sad one, they can have an angry one, they can have a confused one, right? All the range of emotions. And then when kids get to school, they can put that on their desk, and the teacher will be the only one with an augmented device that can then put those glasses on and scan the room to see how the kids are feeling before the day starts.
That's so fucking crazy.
So if a kid has the anger emoji, and maybe it's a little storm cloud or something, the teacher can then pull Billy out in the hall and say, Billy, what's wrong this morning?
Yeah.
Right? And they can start to get through the emotional problems that kids have by getting an understanding of how they feel emotionally and then letting them work through those emotional issues.
Yeah. Definitely start that with young kids.
Yeah.
Because if you just gave it to high schoolers, you'd have a shit show on
you
your
would.
hands.
You would. But we can influence that behavior from a young age where they open up about their feelings.
Start it with young and then keep it going as it progresses.
Absolutely. Clearly communicate how I'm feeling and why.
Yeah.
We can diagnose problems at home. We can diagnose problems with learning. All just by kids telling their feelings without other students being able to see how they feel. Right. So it still can be private and have a one-on-one conversation that gets ignited, but...
It's so funny because I was actually just listening to, it was one of Joe Rogan's podcasts. I can't remember who the guest was, but they were talking about people that that they diagnose with learning disabilities, but they're not figuring out how they feel, like like they're not getting to the root of it. They're like, oh, this person just can't learn. Well, maybe they're just frustrated, or maybe they're mad, or maybe they have a bad home life, or maybe this, or maybe that. And you are sitting here with, after they were talking about that, like maybe a solution to that. I mean, it's highly dependent on the kids, but
sure,
as it should be, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something too that I'm sure kindergarten or day one not going to be as accurate by the end of the school year. They're going to be more inclined after they've had some of those sessions with a teacher
and good interactions with the teacher.
Mm-hmm. And so now you're talking about more sophisticated teachers too. They're all going to have like psychology based, backgrounds.
But we got to cut the education budget, man.
I know. That's what they want to cut.
It's so crazy.
Well, we have to buy bullets and bombs.
Yeah, and we don't. And not just that.
That's my point.
Yeah, I know. But so I was in the military. Mm-hmm. So they operate on use it or lose it budgets.
Yes.
Okay. And half the time the money isn't even going to the soldier. Half the time it's not going to bullets and bombs. Like all the things that you think are helping protect us. Like my squadron on the base, in which there are many squadrons. Mm-hmm. So it came towards the end of the year, and they needed to spend this money. So if you went around to all the closets in that squadron, they had giant plasma TVs, loads of them. Back when they were costing $5,000 to $7,000 a piece. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just sitting in closets because it was use it or lose it money.
They had to have that money next year.
Yeah. So what the fuck? We can obviously cut the budget if I in one squadron have 50 to 100 $5,000 TVs.
So we're indoctrinated, and they know how to prey on our feelings and emotions. And if you say something like that, then you are unsupportive of the troops.
Yeah.
You don't believe in the American military, and you're un-American.
But that's absurd because I am a vet.
Right.
I saw this with my own eyes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if they had used that money to some sort of good purpose, then I'd be on board.
Right.
There are TVs in closets, and they wouldn't even give me one.
Now we find out why you're mad about it. We get to the root of the real problem here.
But in reality, like, they're not even being used.
Right.
Like they spend them on something completely frivolous that they're not even using. They could have even upgraded the computers. Our computers weren't very, very good.
Right.
You know what I mean? They could have.
It didn't have as high of a price tag. It wasn't a way to get rid of enough money.
Right. Exactly. And there's just so many things that if they maybe use it to, give all the soldiers or troops or airmen or seamen or whatever more money, then maybe I'd be on board with that.
Sure.
But they're TVs in closets.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's a waste
crazy.
of money.
It's a waste of money.
Our government is spectacular at wasting money.
Yeah.
Except for where it could be useful.
Yeah. So one squadron on one base, probably, I don't know, $50,000 to $100,000 that could have went to some school.
Times all those squadrons.
Times all those squadrons. Times
all
every
those bases.
base. Okay. Hey, let's keep education funded.
Yes.
Because it's the most important thing.
It is.
It's the most important thing. We can have the greatest military in the world, but if we got a bunch of morons running it, we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. It's funny. It took me 40 years to realize that my purpose on Earth was to try to change the education system. I've got a formula for it. I'm starting to work on it. COVID has really thrown a big monkey wrench in my works.
Yeah.
I can't work with students anymore, even when schools go back. If they go back, I don't necessarily think they're going to bring them back to me. It's just one more fail point in a coronavirus world.
But in a coronavirus world, is that where your business you were talking to me about beforehand, where you can set up virtual meetings and stuff like that, you can use that for possible education?
Okay.
And that way you don't have to deal with the COVID issues.
My business partner is as passionate about education as I am.
Okay.
He works for a learning company in Silicon Valley right now.
Okay.
They build... it's a mix of AR. So it's like a screen, and then the kids get toys that they play with in front of the screen.
Okay.
But they can be like blocks or lettered blocks, and then so it'll like tell them to pull out the @ and they'll pull out the @ AT, right?
Yeah.
And then if they put the B in front of it, it'll put a bat on the screen. If they put a C in front of it, it'll put a cat on the screen, right? So the kids can then work through their words and letters and stuff. So it's awesome. Not downplaying that, but it just I'm not very familiar with it. That's why it was hard for me to explain well. But that's kind of the idea about where he's working in, because he's so passionate about education. That's actually how we met. He had an educational application that was in beta, and I tested that for him to give him feedback and let him know what he could do better. And so we formed a relationship, and then he has another company called Academy of Games, and Academy of Games is it's coding. It's awesome. I'll plug it for him. I mean, it's still in intro phases, but he's doing it. So he worked at EA on Madden for 5 years.
Oh, well, I love him already.
Right. Who doesn't? So
it's in the PlayStation right there.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, he worked on Madden, so he's really high level. He's really awesome at what he does. So he understands how you make a video game. And so a video game, essentially, if you really want to break it down to its simplest parts, it's made from art, from coding, and from storytelling.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So Madden, not so much storytelling, kind of. There's still an element of story to it, and like a season and a championship and everything like that. But if you're going to play like an RPG, somebody has to tell the story.
Right.
Here's what we're going to do in this RPG, right? And then after they tell the story, then somebody has to come in and say, well, you're going to need monsters that look like this, and the rocks are going to have to look like this. And so then they put the art to it. And then once they have concepts for those, then they can go in and they can start coding the characters and the ability for a character to go through that world.
Yeah.
So in the nature of an RPG, a role-playing game, where there's classes I don't know how many RPGs you've played, but everybody I think knows there's like a tank class, a wizard class, a healer class.
Right. Like Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. There's all these different classes, and then they have a role, and you have to stay within your role to be good at your job. So he has broken down the 3 main elements. So if you're a wizard, wizards are based in illusion, and so that's art.
Okay.
That's the person that does the art, but you get to be a wizard. If you want to be a tinkerer, that is the coder, somebody who builds code and has to tinker around with the code. And then if you want to be a prophet, the prophet is the person who writes the story. And so then he takes 3 kids and he teaches them independently for a while on what they're working on. And then he does these game jams where he puts them together and they build a video game.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. And then so he does most of the tutoring himself, but the goal over time is to hire a network of tutors so we can put educators to work. We can get kids coding early. And then the goal is, and we started a new company, he and I, and that company's obviously, it's really got a lot of momentum and working really hard on it.
Yeah.
So he still is doing Academy of Games. He's still tutoring a couple of kids, but it's a little bit on the back burner. He offered me a partnership that I'll probably be a part of Academy of Games.
Nice.
And we already decided we're going to partner with VRIQ, where the kids that come in, if they want to come back for coding lessons, we'll throw them into Zoom meetings or even our new platform meetings.
Yeah.
It'll probably be something like Zoom though, so that they have a really easy ability to work on the code and stuff on the computer as well.
Yeah.
Or the art or whatever. So that's a great partnership, or we can bring kids to him and then we can get them trained. But he said, if you're willing to help, he's like, you can be a part of the company too. So there's really a good chance that eventually I'll be a part of Academy of Games.
That's really cool.
It's so cool. I really believe in it. And then we're going to hire a network of tutors that are going to be working with these kids. And then we'll have these game jams where they get together on the weekends. And then once there's enough of this content produced by these kids, we'll have larger game jams where other kids test the other kids' games, provide feedback, help them work on it, give them ideas, blah, blah, blah.
Man, when you've really come a long way since you first took on the VR place that you own. Because when you first started, were you thinking about all the education? Or were you just thinking cool arcade?
Cool arcade, man.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep. Yeah. I stumbled onto the education stuff, and I was already aware of what's called the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
But as I went down the rabbit hole of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and actually started doing a lot of research, it just scared the pants off me.
Yeah.
I quickly realized that kids aren't going to have much of a chance in 10 years. There's going to be a lot of kids,
people in general,
that fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and I'd say you're wise to be nervous about it, because Elon Musk talks about how nervous he is about it all the time. And that's something like the fourth. I'm sure people are like, "Oh, the Fourth Industrial Revolution conspiracy theory," but that's just, to me, that's just not a conspiracy theory. That's happening.
Yeah,
like it's been happening for years.
Go look it up. I mean, it's a thing. It's real.
Yeah, and when I was in elementary school, we barely had computers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And now look at everything.
Kids are swiping on a tablet when they're 3. They're not even in school yet. They're swiping on a tablet.
Yeah. Yeah, they're sitting at
finding their YouTube shows.
Yeah, sitting at Applebee's with their family and not having social interaction, playing on their tablet or their phone.
And the sad part about that is they're not looking around at other people's social interactions.
Yeah,
that's the real problem. They're not learning how to behave in society.
Exactly. I'm not mad at parents. I don't judge parents for doing it, but I don't like it.
Same here.
Because my sister does.
There could also be benefits.
There's definitely benefits. There's definitely benefits. But when you're out to dinner and you see the parents just hand their kids a device so that they'll be controllable, you know what I mean? Like, well, no, they need to learn how to act in society, and you need to teach them that.
That if I'm not holding something, I still have to behave.
Right. And you need to instill that in them.
Right.
Like you guys have a partnership here, and when you do things like that, like, Jesus, just take this so that you'll just be quiet and do that, and I don't have to worry about it. Neither of you are fulfilling your end of the partnership. They're not learning how to become functional members of society, and you're not teaching them how to do that.
Right.
And I get it. It's tough. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I see it. I understand that it's a tough thing.
I do. And I think, again, in life, everything boils down to moderation.
Yes.
So, if you're doing it every single time, it's a problem. You know, it is. There needs to be moderation, and you need to be sometimes on, sometimes off. They'll get great skills at computers.
Yeah, and they need to have those.
Sure, and they're not going to be afraid of them either.
Yeah.
Like, my dad, passed away a few, years ago, but up until he got sick, I was still helping him get to his email.
Yeah.
He would call me on the phone like, Joe, how do I get into my email again? He didn't get it. And every time he got on a computer, he was afraid he was going to hit the self-destruct button. Like if a setting came up, he was frozen.
So, oh, shit.
He would call me and like, Joe, I'm on the internet and this thing came up and said the computer needs access because of a firewall. Does this activate something? Is somebody going to get burned? Like he has no idea.
What is this
firewall? Why are we burning people with computers? And so he had that fear because he never grew up on computers. He just never had that. Well, kids aren't going to be afraid to go through settings. They're not going to be afraid to break things and try to put them back together when it comes to code or programs or whatever. And so that part is important. There's a lot of great stuff they can learn, but we need to be thinking about the social side of things. What's going to happen to humans?
Because we don't want a bunch of recluses.
We don't, and that's the world we're really setting up. I look at everything as trends. I try to look at my friend Gabriel. He's my business partner in Silicon Valley. I've always done it, but I never thought of it this way. Like as far as a trend, and everything he looks at is like the stock market. Everything. This guy's brilliant. Plays music, plays drums, guitar.
Just gifted at everything.
Just high-level programmer, understands code like nothing. Just super gifted. But I forget what I was going to say about him. Lost my train of thought. Looking at everything like a trend.
Yeah.
And so that's what he does. He messes with the stock market, and he's like, but we were talking one day about racism and tolerance and what's going on in the world and how the news really pitches this high level of racism. Like the world is like super divided and everybody hates everybody. But I think if you truly look at it, tolerance is on the rise.
I think it's
the trend. The LGBTQ community, everybody's more accepting. We don't shame people. The trend of tolerance, and not only is it going up, it's skyrocketing up.
Yeah, I'd say the trend is there, and I would say I would agree that it's skyrocketing. I think there's still a lot of issues.
There's a lot of issues. We got ground to cover, but man, are we making progress. But you'd never know that from the news.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just one example of how he always puts everything into a perspective of trends. Mm-hmm. And so I've done that anyway through my life, but now that he's kind of really clearly identified that, now I'm always just specifically looking for the trend. If I see something, I'm like, okay, well, what was it 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? And what are the plot points in between so I can actually gauge this in my mind, like where we're going?
Yeah.
And when it comes to artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, Internet of Things, you can easily see the trend is to consistently ramp up technology at no matter what the cost is to humanity.
Yeah, technology and automation.
At the expense of humanity.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And so that is my big fear, that we are going to lose humanity in the next 5 to 10 years as people don't understand how to plug themselves into this equation any longer.
Yeah. We're going to live in a world where we don't have jobs. Mm-hmm. We're going to live in a world where, to me, almost like Ready Player One, where you're going to be in some sort of virtual reality a lot. And I really fear that people are going to be recluses. It already happens now. Kids play too many video games. Like when we were kids, everybody was always outside.
Yes.
Whole neighborhoods got together and played together. Yes. You know what I mean? And it doesn't really happen anymore.
No. Well, parents are afraid to let their kids out of the house.
Yeah. Well, again, because it is like people are like, well, man, you see kids getting kidnapped and stuff all the time. Like, well, that always happened. It just, we didn't have all the news from every area coming to us all the time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, kids got kidnapped in L.A., but a kid didn't get kidnapped in Steubenville, Ohio today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And although that's kind of crazy. And over the past 25 years, there have been a lot of people go missing from Steubenville.
Yeah. Is there a lot?
Yeah.
I'm unaware.
Remember Barbara Barnes. I can't believe you don't remember her. I mean, it was major. She was a young girl. She got abducted and she's gone. And I mean, I know I can think of about 3 or 4 more off the top of my head in the last 5 years that have gone missing. Like they find their car. One guy's car was at Jim Woods Field.
No shit.
He's gone. Don't know where he is. He's just missing. Every once in a while, I'll see it pop back up on Facebook. They're looking for him.
I won't remember specific names, but I do remember a couple stories like that now that I'm thinking about it.
It does happen.
It does happen.
And so parents are justified, but when I was a kid, I was also taught like you never ever go with an adult.
Right.
They can't come by and say it's I'm your mom's friend. Like, that doesn't count. You don't go
with a stranger.
You don't go with a stranger. You don't trust people. You don't candy is not an incentive. You don't care.
Yeah.
And I was taught these things like don't go over and pet somebody's puppy.
Right.
Like unless you have an adult. If you have an adult with you, those things become more acceptable. But you have to really be cautious. And when I was a kid, there was the kidnapper van. The van that had that little window in the back that was like bubbled over so you couldn't see through it. And I would literally hide behind bushes when the kidnapper van would drive by. I mean, so there was a better awareness, but we got to play outside. We got to have a completely different social life as a child. And I'm really worried about the mind of children and what kind of adults we're going to produce. And then what kind of world are we going to produce them into?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I have a very big fear of that. I don't see kids socializing the correct way, and I don't think social media helps whatsoever. I think it creates a lot of depression. I think it's good for like what I'm trying to do.
Sure,
you know what I mean.
Promotion of companies and
things like that.
Absolutely.
Honestly, even to the very basic part of like when you run into somebody you haven't seen in years, but you have them on Facebook, and they start trying to tell you stuff. You're like, I know, man. I got you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like you got anything else?
You got anything else for me?
Yeah. Okay.
Give me the juice. Give me the secret stuff.
Right. I need your secrets now because everything else is out there.
Yeah.
So, you know what? This is a boring conversation. Let's just go back to who we normally hang out with.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't go there.
Yeah, but that's kind of what it is, you know? But I did want to ask you, so obviously you've taken on this huge aspect of the education. Do you have like a specific vision or a specific goal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to franchise VRHQ so that we can get arcades all over the country. I want for kids to be excited about the arcade.
But do you want to like partner with schools and
Yeah. So then like that's a front for me. That is that's all this is cool and exciting. People will support it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then once I get the arcades, then we can transition to the VRIQ, the educational side of things, for the learning center during the day. We can go around and we can get all the schools in the area to be involved. VRIQ is, it's kind of like the educational branch of VRHQ, where it can be used as a learning center where kids can come in, use the VR and learn and have fun. But we are also a consulting company, so we can also explain to schools specifically how to set up virtual reality and augmented reality systems that would benefit kids the most.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of mobile units right now that don't require computers, and they're not quite as good, but they're really good. Okay, still really good. Those can be used to buy en masse so that you can take them into a classroom.
Yeah.
So then you got a kid, I've talked to a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of experts. So far what I've diagnosed is the best way, is to take in half the headsets for the kids. So if there's 30 kids in a class, you bring in 15 headsets. And then what you do is you pair the kids off together, and one kid learns, the other one guides, and then they flip. Because if you have 30 headsets, then the teacher becomes a firefighter. Mine doesn't fit right. How do you turn it on? What application are we using? Which controller? And then they're running around the room trying to put out fires the entire time, and they're not teaching a lesson.
Yeah.
So if you do it this way, the kid that is the partner kid is helping them through any issues, while the teacher still gets to continue with a lesson. And so then this does a second thing. The kids that are the stronger technology, like they're more technological, they pick it up faster. Those kids become leaders in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then teachers are finding out that those kids are starting to drive curriculum. They're saying, hey, there's this VR app that we're not using right now. I tested it out a little bit, and it's awesome. We could do this, that, and the other thing.
And then that's where it comes into play, where you said you need kids to want to learn in the pursuit of learning.
They're participating.
Yeah.
They're active participants. They're not sitting on the sidelines. And
just waiting for you to spout at them.
And here's another beautiful part about VR. when I put a headset on, you can't pass me a note. I can't look out the window.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to my neighbor. This lesson is now for me.
Right.
It's hands-on for me, and I'm specifically engaging with just that. So the engagement goes through the roof. Because of that, lessons learned in virtual reality have a 600 to 800% retention increase.
Really?
Yes.
Man.
They're not looking out the window. They didn't miss
Yeah.
something because the kid passed them a note.
Yeah.
They're not reading a note. They're not looking on their phone. They're not going somewhere else. Mentally, they're there.
Right.
And they remember the information. So that's one way. You can get mobile units about half the class, bring them in. The kids are super excited, and you can do lessons. Then we have really high powerful gaming computers at the arcade.
Yeah.
And then they push really high-end graphics and really high-end processes to really sophisticated VR headsets. So those are very good for art.
Okay.
Really good. So I have 3D modeling.
I really think art is important.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, and also there's 3D modeling.
Yeah.
So
I just think art in general. It doesn't necessarily mean painting, but just the arts.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So and it is 3D modeling is definitely an art.
Yeah.
So when
sure.
you go to college right now, if you go to college and you pick up 3D modeling as a course,
Yeah.
you will then get behind your laptop or your PC and you will do 3D modeling on a 2D screen.
Yeah.
But if you come to VRHQ and your kid does 3D modeling, they will be doing 3D modeling in a 3D environment. It's like Tony Stark.
Yeah.
They can make a cube over here, they can make something over here, then they can grab it and put it together.
That's really cool.
They can, if it's in the way, they can put it over here, right? And so it's out of the way, and then they can build some more stuff, and then they can put it back together. So
I've got to come do like a tour de grace of your place, man.
it's awesome. So the 3D modeling is awesome. So then that's made by Google Blocks. That's the program. And then we have Google Tilt Brush, and Google Tilt Brush is painting and drawing.
Yeah.
And so you can paint and draw with animation. So like if I pick the fire tool, when I lift my controller up and I'm painting a stroke with fire, it is now fire. It is rippling fire. Like I told you about the snow. I can make snow come down. I can make rainbows. I can make stars.
That's incredible.
Right? So then, because they're compatible, they're both Google, I can then reach into my library and pull out any 3D object that I've created and then put that in my space and then paint around it.
Yeah.
I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So I...
Really?
Yeah.
See your shirt.
Oh, yeah. So I 3D modeled AT-AT walkers, ATST walkers, the four-legged walkers on Hoth.
Yeah.
The two-legged walkers in the Battle of Endor with the Ewoks. The two-legged machines. So in Google Blocks, you can actually take a reference image in with you.
Okay.
So I can go out to the internet and I can pull up a picture of an AT-AT walker, and then I can, once I'm in the thing, I can hit a button that says pull your reference. It opens a window. I take the headset off. I find my file, open it. Now when I put it back on, there's a picture in my hand. I tack the picture on the wall, on the imaginary wall.
Yeah.
And then I look, I said, well, what's its foot look like? All right, well, it's an octagon on the bottom. So I put an octagon down. I'm like, it's got these little things coming off. I'm like, then it's this. And I just put every piece in and I just built it all the way up, leg to the top. And I made AT-AT walker, ATST walker. I made TIE fighters and X-Wings and Star Destroyers and...
you went all out.
I went all out. It took me like about 3 weeks. But, it was... I joke, but I don't joke. I needed to also learn.
Right.
So that I can teach the kids.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to learn the programming pretty sophisticated. I needed to know the ins and the outs.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was kind of a process of me learning the thing and then finding my, because when I first got in there,
you got to do it in a really fun way with a subject that you love.
Yeah. Well, I never did it before.
Yeah.
Right. I've never done 3D modeling. So I would go into the space and I would stand there like an idiot. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make it. I wouldn't know what to do.
Right.
So then I was like, well, I got to think of like a theme or something, and that's when I came to Star Wars. And I'm like, well, I like that. Let's do that. So then I started doing it. I started getting good at it. And then I took all those. I went into Tilt Brush, and I imported all of those models and created entire scenes from Star Wars.
Okay.
Where the ships are flying, literally laser blasts.
Yeah.
And they actually move. The laser blasts are moving. And like the ships don't move, but the effects move, right?
Still,
and so I can make this whole scene just in Blocks and Tilt Brush. tremendous implications for what kids can do for the arts.
Yeah, it's
we
crazy.
have sculpting. You can put down clay, and then you can pick through your tools for carving, and you carve your clay away. And you can make all types of really cool things.
That's awesome.
It's really a way to have fun, learn at the same time, really get some tremendous skills. Most kids don't 3D model until they get to college.
Right.
So this is an ability for that to happen.
I've never done it.
And so those are those are the real powerful processes. That they need the really powerful computers.
Yeah.
So like schools would be more likely to put those into a lab scenario.
Right.
Right. So instead of having like 15, because every computer plus headset's going to cost you $4,000.
Right.
Right. Instead of having that, you have 4 or 5 in a dedicated area where art students can go and computer students can go. I read a case study about a school in Stowe, Ohio, coincidentally. So it's in Ohio. Pretty cool. And they have a technology director who's really into this too. And what he did was he had the art students in the art room making art and 3D objects. Then they would export those objects to the 3D printer and print the things that they made so that they could take versions home and feel like that much more accomplished.
Yeah.
But they would also save the files on the school's database or school storage area. And then kids in the computer lab that were creating VR virtual environments could then go through that library and look for things that they could import into their world that they didn't have to create.
That's really cool.
So now you have kids that are more like coding based and, into 3D environments, but they might not be so into the art side of it.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be because then the art is already provided and they can go into doing that. So I thought that was really cool because now you're doing cross collaboration between departments.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's so much upside potential to virtual reality and augmented reality education. I'm really excited about it.
How long? I mean, do you perceive it as a high possibility that schools are really going to implement this
Over time.
across the board?
Yes.
Like how much time? Guess, obviously.
See, now, if you would have asked me
Pre-COVID,
I would have had a completely different answer for you.
Yeah.
So now I would probably say maybe in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Damn. So that's still
we
soon.
were really close. Like I was getting cracks in the dam already.
Yeah.
They don't even know what they're going to do with students.
Yeah. No.
They don't.
No, not at all.
Now, one beautiful thing is that schools are also getting more tech grants. They're trying to. They understand the kids are going to go like virtual with school, and they want teachers and students to have better virtual equipment and a better ability to maybe have virtual worlds where they can learn and do things inside of virtual reality or even inside of virtual platforms like the one that I'm creating with my new company.
Yeah.
So they have increased budgets for technology.
Okay.
So there is a chance, but if you're only bringing students in 2 days a week, I doubt they're going to be interested in spending $4,000 on a, or 12 or 16 grand on a lab.
Yeah.
Right now, we could get that cost down. And I guess I was kind of getting at to the consulting work that we do. We can go into a school and we can ask what their goals are. Like, do you want to have this where you can load them up on a cart?
Right. You can fit it to their needs.
Right.
Wants.
Right. So we can do the ones where it's mobile, and we can get you 15 or 30 of these, so you can have 2 different classes at the same time, or maybe it's just one class, but the teachers rent out the cart, right? A little sign-out sheet, and at Tuesday at 2 p.m. that they're mine.
Like they used to with like AV equipment,
TVs,
like TVs and shit.
Yeah, the TV, the VCR. Yeah. I remember in the 4th grade watching the Challenger explode. Right?
Yeah, right.
They wheel that TV in there, and then all the kids are just like, "Oh, what happened?" Yeah. Yeah, watch.
Jesus.
Yeah, in real time. It was like my first, like, oh my God moment. They're okay, right? And I feel bad laughing. It was so tragic, but
it's definitely tragic. But it's just
being in a 4th grade, having that. But I remember that so vividly, having that brought into the classroom.
Yeah.
But this is something we can do. We can bring it into the classroom. They can rent it out.
Hey kids, let us bring this TV in here for this horror show.
Yeah, horror show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wow.
Go ahead. So they rent it out.
So yeah, that kind of thing. So that we can get at that point we can get more kids engaged. Now the beauty of that is that now we can reach the bottom percentage of classrooms.
Okay.
When you wheel VR in, even the kids that don't like to learn are like, what's going on today?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Like,
eyes are perked
what's
up.
all this? Because it's new.
It's new.
Different.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And so they want to know what's going on, and they're interested right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we can use it as a tool to reach down and grab that 10%, 15% at the bottom that just gave up.
Yeah.
And we can start to pull them back to education, right?
Right.
So that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
But
yeah.
if we focus on the bigger, more expensive machines in a lab scenario, that is going to cater to your percentage of students that are already go-getters.
Right.
Your students who really love computers, computer environments, computer programming, high-level art, not even high-level, just art and working on art and stuff.
Well, and that bottom 15 can work their way into
They
that.
can.
Yeah.
They can. But so we have to diagnose, like, what do you want to do the most?
Yeah.
Where do we want to start, right? We can
Yeah.
start here where we can start bringing the 10% up. But eventually you need to get to a lab scenario where we can start getting kids skills that they can't even really get in college right now.
Yeah.
And these kids will do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch them. Like, so I'll do blocks, right, with the students. I would design a table and chairs, and then I would put plates on the tables. I would even, like, 3D model, like, burgers. I'd, like, do a little brown thing that was like a bun.
Yeah.
And then I'd put a burger, and you can, like, draw lines on things. So I'd have, like, little grill lines on it, and then
Yeah.
I'd put the other burger off to the side, and then I had, like, little fries.
Yeah.
Right? So I had a burger and fries, and I had a glass, and I put, like, little grape juice or something inside of it.
Yeah.
And so when they come in, they see that I've got a table, I've got chairs, there's plates, there's
Right.
all this stuff, right? And I say, so here's what we're going to do today. Everybody is going to make me their own table and chairs. It doesn't have to be like this. You guys don't have the experience I do. I've been doing this for weeks and
Yeah.
weeks. Just do the best you can. But I'm going to judge the best, and the best one gets a free hour to come back to the arcade whenever they want.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I gave all the kids a free hour to come back to the arcade.
Right.
Yeah. So as long as they participated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. But then they have an ability to do something, and they do. They're not perfect. They're not great. But they
Yeah.
have an experience now of 3D modeling. That is something they wouldn't have had an experience to do for another 10 years.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really awesome. So that's what we want to do with schools. We want to bring them on board. We want to get them ramped up. We want to get them involved. And I really, truly think that we can reach in and we can grab that bottom percentage of kids that hate school.
Yeah.
And we can start to win them back.
And I think that's important.
It's so important.
Yeah. Well, I love all of that. I think that's amazing. I'm going to definitely have you back on to talk more about that and some other things. And I'm not ending this right now. Okay. I just want to jump forward to your new business that you're getting into.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a crazy story. So Gabriel, my business partner.
I thought you were talking about like from the Bible.
No. And I don't know how much of his personal life I should get into.
Real quick, I'm going to grab a water. You need anything?
No, I'm great.
Okay. You can keep talking.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of how much of Gabriel's story I want to tell without his permission here. Right. So Gabriel decided to go out of the country and to just try to see the world and get some perspective. So
okay, kind of like finding himself.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to tell a story because it's really cool, and he's an awesome guy. So I don't think I'm like doing him any disservice, and I think
it's not like you're going to talk about him drug smuggling, right?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so.
it's great. But he quit his job at EA, and I guess EA from his perspective is really it's really power structure oriented, where people at high positions get really cushy jobs with really high pay and really great perks. Okay. And so what happens is the underlings are constantly like it's the crab effect. Crab in a bucket. You ever hear that?
No.
And crabs when they're in a bucket, they just want to get to the top. So they just start pulling the thing above them down. Mm-hmm. That's all they care about, right? And so that's basically how he described EA to me as crabs in a bucket. They're all just trying to step on each other to get to one of those cushy positions. So there's infighting.
Which happens a lot, I think.
It sure does. But it kept him from feeling like it was a healthy environment where people were breeding positive ideas and collaboration. Working together.
Yeah.
So he did well enough that he had a little bit of money, and he decided that he was going to take some time off work and just go travel. So this is the cool part, and this is what I really respect about him. He gave away or threw out all of his possessions.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Gave away. TVs, everything but his laptop, a bongo, a ukulele. He wore all of his clothes to the airport except for what could fit in the backpack and inside the bongo.
Jesus.
And he went to Italy and Barcelona and Morocco, and he rode camels in the Sahara, and he hung out with nomadic Bedouins, and he went to, he just went all over.
That's really fucking cool.
It was so cool. He can speak. He's originally from Venezuela. He's an American citizen, and he lived here since he was 14.
Okay.
So speaks English. You wouldn't know that Spanish was his first language. No,
yeah.
But he speaks fluent Spanish.
Yeah.
He speaks Italian. So, we had already made a connection because of the app that I had checked out for him. That's why we were friends on Facebook. He would set up a camera on a bridge, like a little walkover bridge, in a canal somewhere in Italy, and play his ukulele, which he plays like a guitar, and sing.
No shit.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there. People are walking by, and he's just playing a guitar. He wasn't even like asking for money. There was nothing out.
Yeah.
He just
hanging out.
Hanging out.
Yeah.
And he went to Romania. He went to this square in Romania. It was beautiful. This huge family was all together playing music and dancing, and they just welcomed him right in, and he was dancing and hanging out with them, and it was just super cool. So coronavirus came, and they start threatening to shut down international travel.
Yeah.
So
he just did this recently.
So he wanted to get back into the States, and he didn't want to get, shut out of the country.
Yeah.
So he hopped a flight back into the country, and then his sister changed her mind because he had been in Italy 6 to 8 weeks before that. He was in Barcelona.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we're looking on the
Italy
news,
was
and you're just
bad.
watching Italy melt down, right?
Yeah.
So she changed her mind. So now he's in the States, and he's got nowhere to go. So he put a thing on Facebook, and he says, hey, guys, I'm kind of stranded. I don't know what to do. And so I just said, fly to Pittsburgh, brother.
Yeah.
So he flew to Pittsburgh. I went and picked him up. I didn't tell my roommates because I didn't think they'd say yeah if I said, hey, I'm bringing a guy from Italy here. So,
hey, I'm actually bringing the coronavirus
yeah,
here.
yeah. If you guys don't mind, I think we'd just get it over early. It was a nervous 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was.
But it worked out okay.
Yeah, it worked out more than okay. So here's one thing I'm going to say. I don't know how, and some people are I'm very science-based and real-world-based, but there's a very spiritual side to me, and the universe tells me what to do. I'm not some guru. I'm not like the most in-tune person on the planet, but when I am supposed to do something, I am absolutely prompted to do so.
Okay.
It's how I live my life. It's what guides my decisions, and I'm really happy with the way it's guiding my decisions, so I continue to listen to it.
Yeah.
When I saw his post, I felt like I was struck by lightning.
His post saying I'm stranded.
There was no question in my mind whatsoever that I needed him to be with me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's what happened. And without hesitation, I said, fly to Pittsburgh, brother.
Yeah.
So I picked him up, and we start now. All right. Without getting into this whole other story, the state of Ohio is looking for a virtual platform so that they can host meetings. All right. So I already knew that, and I knew that through my connections through the Steubenville City Schools.
Okay.
So I was already in my mind, like, how do I design this, and how do I get this created, right? And so I knew the space that I could do it in, and I was starting to teach myself, but man, was it going to be an uphill battle. So
because you're not actually like a coder, right?
I am not a coder. I do no coding.
Yeah.
I can do a little HTML code, but a little. It can fit in a thimble, my knowledge.
Okay.
So I wanted to design this space for them. I wanted to make sure that I could provide that for them, and I knew there wasn't a huge list of people that could.
Yeah.
Right now. So they told me, well, the person locally, Ohio was looking for a vendors list, a list of vendors to put on a list.
Okay.
So I got onto that list, and I figure it's a pretty short list. I don't know what's on there, but it's probably pretty
You
short.
would assume.
Right?
Yeah.
So as soon as I picked him up, I told him about it, and I'm like, hey man, we gotta do this. We gotta design this environment. We gotta make this happen. Will you help me? He's like, yeah, no problem. So we start getting assets. Assets are like, you can buy 3D models already put together.
Okay.
Somebody made it. It looks great. They can put it on. It's called the App Store. or the asset store.
It's almost like a template.
Yep, and you can download it.
Yeah.
And you get full permission. You can use it right as it is if you want,
Yeah.
legally. But you most of the time, if you do, be fully aware that somebody else could do the same thing, and then you have an exact product, right? So of course you do want to put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
But we immediately started buying school assets, different schools, different gymnasiums, different stuff like that. And we're starting to like put everything together, and again, like the universe is just insane how it puts things right in your path when you need it. So, like week 1, he comes in, we start working on this. At the beginning of week 2, a woman reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I put on live events. I've seen your posts in forums on Facebook." That's how she found me on Facebook. And she says, "I need a format to put an event on virtually. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Well, funny you should ask. I just happened to move a high-level programmer into my house a week ago, and that's what we're working on currently."
Yeah, I was going to say, we're currently kind of doing this.
Yeah, so it was just insane. So I recorded something for her inside of one of those schools.
Yeah.
And then sent her that to show her, like, this is what we can do. So she's like, "That's fantastic. Let's go." So we negotiated a price. We worked it out, and we put on this. It's like an expo.
Yeah.
And so we put that on. We hired 2 more developers, and we put this environment together where so she works with like 20 different brands. We did a smaller version just for our first time, so we only worked with 5 of her brands. But so just to give some backstory into her profession, she's an event planner.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So companies pay her to create spaces where she can push customers to them.
Yeah.
Right? She's out of work.
Yeah.
I can't do any concerts. I can't do any conferences. I can't do any expos, right? I'm
Nothing.
out of work.
Yeah.
So brands had already paid her. And now they're saying, like, well,
We're going to need that money.
we're going to need that money back, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to do anything for us.
Yeah.
So she don't want to give the money back.
Right.
So she wants to do something for them. So that's when she turns to the virtual idea. So she gets a hold of me. So she says, "Let's just do my 5 major brands, the one that I need to keep happy. We'll keep it small." And she goes, "What we do is we normally do a lot of it's for maternity, it's for babies and for
Okay.
expecting parents.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of knowledge that's involved. It's because some of them are first-time parents and they don't know what to expect, and it's a brand new world for them. So there's a lot of education and medical education and stuff like that, and even product education, because you don't know why to get this car seat, not that car seat, or this stroller, not that stroller, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of education. So she said, we need to have something where they can do like a presentation, but also we want booths that give them the same feeling of being at a trade show.
Yeah, where you can buy things and
Yeah. So we built, this is cool. I 3D modeled the environment
nice.
because I had enough 3D modeling experience, and Gabriel taught me a new program called Blender and taught me how to use it. And I knew enough of 3D modeling that I could pick that up, and I modeled our environment. So I was really proud of that. I thought it was super cool. Like every time I go in there, and you can go in VR, it's like, I built this. It's really cool, you know?
It's always a good feeling to like admire something that you built.
Yeah, and you're standing in it virtually. It's like, whoa, it's kind of mind-blowing. So I built this presentation area, so big stage, and she was sponsored by LaCroix, so we had big LaCroix cans. It's like a sparkling drink.
Yeah.
We had big LaCroix cans on the stage, and there was a big screen on the background that could play videos, and then it could also do slideshows.
Okay.
So then I would, just like a show, just like a regular show, I would call first, I'd introduce the first person, bring them up on the stage, and they would go through their spiel, talk about what they wanted to educate people on. There's people out on the risers in the audience. And then we had 3 presentations. After the presentations, we moved back into the expo, the actual. So now we have vendor booths.
Up booths, yeah.
Yeah, we have, and all those vendors just spread out and went to their booths. And then everybody can walk around and they can engage with the vendors, who can then tell them about their products and their services and what they do. And then every vendor had a special discount or something that was going on because of the event.
Right.
So that people, and then
It's like the coolest version of an online store.
Yes, wow. And then now we're actually working on that.
Okay.
An actual online store. 24 hours a day. You can walk around, browse the store, click on items, search for more information about items, and then also be able to request. So if you ever go into any kind of website where, so I have web hosting, right? I got a website, so we have web hosting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I have any problem, I can go on their website and click the chat button and be like, all right, we're busy, but in 3 minutes on average, somebody will be with you.
Yeah.
So I wait around. I might go to a different tab, but in 3 minutes, somebody's going to come check on me.
Yeah.
We can do that. So you could ask for a rep, and then a rep could meet you, and you'd feel like you're talking to a real person who would then walk around and be able to sell you and help you to make a decision on anything. Plus, this is also a baby product company, and so it would be more like putting things on a registry because people very rarely buy all of the baby things for themselves.
Right.
So, but it will be the option. You can either buy it or you can put it on a registry in real time.
Yeah.
So we're adding the commerce to the virtual in real time with salespeople.
That's so crazy.
So vendors are also out of work.
Yeah.
If you're a vendor, you're not going to a trade show. And if that's your job to go to, most vendors from what I've learned so far, and this is one little, market. So, I mean, I don't know about the whole world, but these people have jobs in the company, but they're like, I don't want to call them fluff jobs. It's more like their job is to be more knowledgeable about products and be salesmen, but be able to help people that have questions or there's problems or anything like that.
Navigate the purchasing process.
And sometimes even more just like somewhat customer service.
Yeah.
But then 4, 6, 10 times a year, I don't know how many times, they fly and they go somewhere and then they actually sell those products in real time.
Yeah.
So a lot of these companies are going to and I've talked to the vendors who have told me this, companies are leaning on them. Like, what are you going to do for me? We're paying you. Like, what do you do here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, basically your job is on the line, and if you can't give me a good answer, you're done.
Right.
So they're freaking out. So vendors, and then, so the woman that we did this conference for, she said she didn't realize how bad the brands need them. The brands rely on that huge boost in sales from these conferences that they do all year.
Right.
So you've got businesses.
It's like advertisement and sales.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's like brand loyalty. You get people to really feel passionate about a brand because they've talked to people inside of the brand.
Right.
And so now you've lost jobs from the planner, the vendor, and the company is suffering too.
Man.
So we devised a way to get vendors back on a sales floor, engaging with clients and potential customers, selling goods in real time, and then also adding an element where we can incorporate social media.
Yeah.
You can have somebody go around as the camera.
Yeah.
And their perspective is the camera.
Right.
We had someone following someone on our team going around interviewing people and asking them what they thought while it was being recorded.
It's like in the final Hunger Games. That guy followed.
Never saw it.
Oh, you never saw it? Well, in that movie, Jennifer Lawrence ends up being followed around because she's kind of fighting the battle, but they also have film crews following her. But literally, the guy, it's just like what he's seeing. Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay,
it's not.
That's
he's not
perfect,
holding a camera.
Yeah,
it's like eyes. You know what I mean?
That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so that was our footage for interviews of asking people what they thought, if they were having fun, what their favorite part was, blah blah blah. So yeah, we had a little crew going around just to kind of also spark the engagement from guests.
Man, and I think about that on like an even grander scheme. Like you get to the point where like you go to JCPenney's, but you just do it in a virtual world. JCPenney's no longer needs a building.
Right. And then if you have problems or questions, you hit that little help button and they say, hey, all of our reps are busy, but we'll have somebody to you in about 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, some guy's going to throw a headset on here in a minute, and you'll be good to go.
And you'll be good to go. He'll help you out with that. All your questions.
That's kind of crazy. You have a bunch of people working retail jobs from their house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I'm trying to put people back to work. I'm trying to get the wheels of commerce moving again.
Yeah. That's just so crazy. Like, you don't even go to a mall. You go to a virtual mall. And, yeah, sure, you're not going to walk out of there with the shirt, but it'll be Amazon delivers everything in 2 days. So there you go.
You're going to love this. So we're talking to a company right now, and I'm not going to mention their name, but They are a whiskey distillery.
Ooh.
So they do.
But I want to know the name.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you later. They will do tours. They bring people in and they do tours of their facility, and then there's tastings.
Yeah.
Well, they can't do it.
Right.
So we are going to build an exact replica of their building in virtual space. We're going to put in the distilleries. We're going to put in the casks. We're going to put in the barrels. And then we're going to have the company is going to either send out sample kits or people can stop by and pick them up. And then when they do the virtual tour, the distiller will explain to them the process involved in distilling this particular whiskey. And then they're going to say, so go ahead and open your package. And if you pull out sample A and taste that now, that is what you're tasting.
I want to be involved. That's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then if you click on the bottle on the bar, it takes you to their website where you can just buy a bottle and have it shipped.
Now, how did they find you?
So marketing, our marketing right now is more, it's aggressive. We're going out for people. It's not, we're not doing, inbound sales where people come to you. We're going out for it. So the woman who had the baby shower thing. Yeah. She's awesome. And, we developed a really great relationship over working with her. And just realized that her knowledge would just be key. So we actually asked her to be a part of the company, and she is our third co-founder. So she has a lot of contacts.
You are just making moves. You're working every day, aren't you?
Oh, every day.
Man.
Every day. I mean, I work. After I work, I go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just really cool.
But I mean,
but you're doing really cool stuff. I mean, and you seem really passionate about it. So it's almost like work and play.
I get energy from working.
Yeah.
I never go home like.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do that all the time.
Let me say this. In the past 3 months, there has been that.
Right. Well,
COVID has.
You're dealing with extra stressors that you weren't prepared for.
Sure.
Because nobody was.
The government decided that I did not prove that I sustained economic injury during the 3 months that I was forced closed. So I got zero assistance from the government. It put us really behind the 8 ball, 3 months of not taking any customers. No business is prepared for that.
Yeah.
Now, VRIQ, I set that company up so smart. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I made sure it didn't have any bills.
Yeah.
It doesn't have rent because it can piggyback off of VRHQ. VRHQ pays the internet, the electric, all the stuff, right? So VRIQ literally pays insurance.
Okay, yeah.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll have to buy an app or something. But I mean, it's so marginal how much money has to come out of that.
But you don't have like a lot of continual bills.
Overhead of like we're just going to sink like a rock because right now we're not dealing with any students. Zero.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Customers are coming back to the arcade slowly.
Right.
But no one is interested in bringing, the kids for education right now. And the schools definitely are going to be a little nervous about it too. So luckily that company will be able to keep going even though there's nothing's being sold. I'm not being able to sell field trips and encounters, so engagement. So the COVID thing it's been rough. It really has. And there's been a lot of days where, it's like, what are we going to do? And especially when you're in the thick of it and you're home and you can't go to the shop and everything's shut down and you don't know when you're going back.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of days during COVID where I'm like that. But when it's just work related,
right.
I love what I'm doing. I told you that story about the kid in the escape room. Like, sometimes it's like hard for me to not get emotional talking about that.
Yeah.
Like it was a day that might have changed his life forever.
Right. And it impacted you tremendously.
Tremendously. So I had another, so I am also working with a woman in China. So this woman works in, she lives in the city where 70% of the world's toys are manufactured.
Oh, shit.
Right. So
I didn't even know that was a place.
She got a hold of me. I think it's the North Pole.
Sounds like a paradise.
Right. Yeah. So she got a hold of me again, what I was doing on Facebook, because I'm on a lot of the educational forums, and even if it's just education, I still talk about virtual reality education and what I'm doing. And so she asked me if I would be interested in robots. And I'm like, well, sure, right? Yeah. And so she goes, well, I design robot kits for kids. She was like, can I send you one? Well, I actually turned her away at first because I was she's from China, and I don't know her. And she said, if I send you money via PayPal, will you buy one?
If she sends you money?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, no, I don't trust you. And I'm like, how could you scam somebody by
giving them
money to PayPal? Like, PayPal's secure. Like, how could you?
And you're giving me money,
right? And so that's why I just didn't trust it, you know?
Yeah.
And I said no. I said, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll still buy them.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want you to send me any money. I didn't trust that part of it.
Yeah.
And they're like $15 a piece.
Right.
Right. I'm like, I'll buy some. So we bought some. She wanted American reviews.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. So she was willing to spend money to get American reviews.
Yeah.
So I bought them, and that started the relationship. And she said, well, when you build them, can you give me the review? And I'm like, sure, but I don't know when we're going to build them because that's not my main thing.
Right.
So we went months just on VR, and then one day they surprised me. They came on a day I wasn't ready for them. I literally had to run from my house to meet the students there. And I didn't have all the equipment up, and one of the computers was giving me a little trouble. And I was like, hey, guys, today we're building robots. So
sweet.
Yep. So I broke out the robots, and the kids were having a discussion about fighting when they got there. Some kids, they wanted this one kid to fight another kid. And I said, guys, so let me tell you something. Like, I wrestled for years. I took karate when I was a kid. And I said, I'm going to tell you a story. I fought a kid in a parking lot in the summer, and it was a gravel parking lot. And I beat him, but the gravel beat me.
Yeah.
And I learned on that day that even if you fight, you don't always win. And I said, and also the first thing he did was knock my glasses off my face and step on them.
Yeah.
I said, so then when I got home, I was in big trouble. And then I had my family didn't have a lot of money, and we had to come up with another $200 for glasses.
Yeah.
Right? I said, so when you think about fighting, you think it's cool and it's macho and it's all this and it's all that. One shot to the temple, you can go blind forever.
Yeah.
You don't want to be blind for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, guys, there's serious consequences to these things. If you have to fight because you're threatened, cool.
Right.
But if not, you really need to use your words, communication, and work with somebody to get past that.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to make a mark on these kids, you know?
Yeah.
But these are kids that I've been seeing for a while now.
Right.
And again, I'm the cool VR guy. I'm not the teacher.
Right, right. You're the cool VR guy with the tattoos and the Star Wars shirts and
exactly.
Yeah.
And so they start saying, that's true. Well, I never thought of that. And so they're talking about all this stuff, you know. So we're in the middle of this conversation, and I said, you know, I don't know how we got from there to what I'm going to talk about, but that brought them into me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I started talking to them, and I said, guys, I want you to start taking your education a little more seriously. I'm like, the reason I do all these things, and I just told them, I said, the 40 to 50% of jobs are going to go away.
Yeah.
I said, artificial intelligence is coming for your jobs.
Yeah.
If you don't do things with education and you don't do things with further learning, you're going to have a really hard time getting a job. I said, so that's why I have robots for you guys.
Right.
I'm like, but we're going to build these robots today. If you guys like this, think about this. Build robots. Build more robots. Get more advanced robots. I said, I'll buy more advanced robots for you guys if you tell me that that's what you want to do.
Right.
And the one kid said, I don't care if they get rid of 40 to 50% of jobs because I'm going to come work for you.
That's awesome. That's really fucking cool. That's really cool.
Crazy cool, man.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, that's awesome. That had to hit you right in the feels.
Right in the feels, man. Like, I'm getting emotional now. Like, dude, it's crazy to be able to have that impact on kids and to also be steering them. I think I have a little bit more of a clear picture of the next 5 to 10 years than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And even educators. I've talked to a million educators, and I always start off like, have you ever heard of the Fourth Industrial Revolution? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you really should. Like, you're one of the people that need to know about it.
Yeah.
So these kids just aren't being prepared.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so special to have kids that are starting to get excited about learning and are start thinking about their future. And I want to work for you. Like, it was amazing.
That's awesome. But what we were talking about, and I'm glad you went on that side note, but was your partnership with the lady in China.
Oh, so she wants to now have expos because all of those manufacturers missed the big Chinese expo where they show off all their toys.
Yeah.
So
so now she wants you to do a big one.
Now she wants us to do something for them where we 3D model their toys, and maybe we have like American distributors who would then be able to look at the toys and decide like, yeah, I'll purchase 100,000 of those, or and start to get the commerce going on that side too.
Man, you could be on the forefront of just something massive, man. Like just really fucking big. Like I said, I just keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about people already shop online a lot, but some of them, a lot of people still like to go to the mall or go to the store, and you can actually create that during a time where people aren't supposed to go.
Allowed.
Yeah.
And so necessity is the mother of all invention. I realized very quickly. So at the Spanish flu of 1818, people didn't group up again for 2 years.
God damn.
They didn't go to church.
Yeah.
They didn't go to 4th of July parades.
Yeah.
They didn't go.
Yeah.
For 2 years. Nobody's dead for 2 years.
Right.
They didn't go.
Well, and I think even when people start to get together again after all this goes away, I think people will still want to utilize what you're doing now.
They will.
Whether it be the conference or whether it actually be like, hey, you know what? PacSun has decided, I don't even know if they're still a company or not. I'm fucking old. But PacSun no longer wants to have actual storefronts. They just think it's too much overhead, not necessary. Now that you have shown that you can do a storefront in virtual reality and you can shop and somebody can still come and help you navigate your purchases. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think there will still be a demand for that. Even if it's not as big, it'll still be worthwhile after people group up again. So
now this is the perfect segue to our argument.
Okay, go ahead.
If you go to a real store and you say, I love this shirt, and you pull it off the rack and you look at the price tag and you go, it's $49.99, and I told myself I wouldn't spend more than $30.
Yeah.
It goes back on the shelf.
Right?
You go around, you do some shopping, and you take your stuff to the counter. That store never knows or has any inkling that you pulled that shirt off the rack. So they have no idea. They have no idea of your interest in that.
Yeah.
It's completely off their radar. So now with a virtual store, we can track analytics.
Yeah.
I can know every product that somebody was interested in. I can know how many times they clicked on that item. I can know how long in between the first time they clicked on it and when they decided to buy it.
Yeah.
There's all types of... And so our argument was that I took it differently because it was sounding to me like you were saying that they won't chip people and that is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I have also an objection to the word conspiracy theory. It marginalizes people that have theories outside of the existing narrative, and I believe that most things exist outside of the narrative that's being pushed. And so it's a way of forcing people to accept status quo pushed by news media and government and established lines of thought.
Yeah.
So that's why when people say conspiracy theory, I'm like, oh man, like that's a bad term. So,
well, I don't think it's a bad term. I think it's demonized.
It is, and it's just immediately with the tinfoil hat.
Yeah, I don't think it should be demonized. I mean, anything that you do not have factual information to back up is essentially a conspiracy theory.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or I guess just a theory.
It's an alternative theory.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the term conspiracy is demonized, but
sure,
there are conspiracies.
There are.
You know what I mean? So
major conspiracies.
Yeah.
And they're proven too throughout time. So like for a fact things like that happen.
Yeah.
So with this whole chip thing, and I get it, you were taken from like the whole COVID thing of people being secretly being chipped.
Yes.
And I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But
I think people will sign up to be chipped.
They're going to want to because they're going to force everything to make that the new normal, right?
Yeah.
The new norm. And so
Jedi powers.
Right. They'll get us to ask.
Yeah. Right.
That's their goal.
Yeah.
But so again, I look at trends and I see the trends through the analytics that they draw and through the surveillance that they ultimately have. And then your point was that the cell phone is enough in itself to completely track somebody to the point where they don't need a chip.
Yeah. Yeah, to an extent. I just think I think a secret chip implanted in you is not as effective as your phone because you're putting all of your information in your phone willingly.
Sure.
I guess really my true point to it is these people are freaking out about being tracked, but they're willing participants in being tracked.
Yes.
That's really my point.
Yes.
You're already willing participants in being tracked.
And here's the problem. It's because we think we know the degree to which we give information.
Oh, yeah, but we don't.
We have zero idea.
Yeah.
So there is something called surveillance capitalism.
Yeah.
It is the new method of capitalism. So capitalism is derived from capital, and capital is the ability to turn something into a commodity that can be marketed.
For example, money.
Kind of
yeah.
more like goods or labor,
Okay.
or like in the Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution, or steam power and especially electricity. They started to create factories, and then they needed raw resources, right? So now we have to burn coal, and we have to cut down trees, and so those trees and coal and those things, nature became a commodity.
Okay.
Right. So there's people that could argue, like, especially to the point that we've done it today, right?
Yeah.
Is that healthy to turn nature into a commodity?
Probably
right?
not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, labor was first. Labor was the first thing to be turned into a commodity. I can put people in a factory to do something, right? That labor became a commodity. Then the natural products became a commodity, and so then now information became a commodity, right? And now privacy is a commodity. Understanding a person's private data and private life.
Yeah.
To create predictive algorithms that will actually deduce human behavior before it happens is what is going on. Companies are paying top dollar to get information from you that they can run through artificial intelligence algorithms to create predictive models of what you will do in the future.
Yeah.
They are selling. Do you know what futures are in a stock? You can buy a future.
No. So
you can buy a future, and you can say that I'm going to buy this stock today, and I am willing to bet money, which is what you're doing right now, that stock will close at a certain dollar amount in the future.
Okay.
All right. And then so let's say that you say it's going to go up, but the stock goes down. Every day that you're getting close to the end of the future that you bought, you're losing money.
Okay.
All right, every single day. But you have an ability to cash out whenever you want.
Okay.
So if you hit your target, you can cash out and make money.
Yeah.
But if you don't, every day that it doesn't, you lose money. So if you're like, well, it's not right now, but I know it's going to turn around. I know you can keep waiting a day, another day, another day.
Right.
And hopefully it does turn around where you can get to the point of making money. But if not, you're losing money the entire time.
Okay.
So that's buying a future.
Okay.
So, and there's commodities, and I'm sure there's a stock analyst out there right now, I can't believe you bastardized that. I'm sure I didn't give it the most clear explanation.
Actually, it was pretty clear, and it's not the real topic of conversation. So fuck off, stock market guy.
I love it. So, they are now trading behavioral futures. Advertisers are buying predictive models of when and how you will buy their products. Facebook, the amount of data that they understand about human beings and human behavior from what we do is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
If a man is getting local restaurants on his credit card, hotel rooms, and a new gym membership, he is now cheating on high probability statistics. He is cheating on his wife and will be divorced within a year.
Oh.
If somebody buys on a credit card diapers, batteries, and disposable razor blades, that is a stolen credit card. All of those items have a tremendous resale value because razors are super expensive. You go to buy a Mach 3. Yeah. Diapers are super expensive, and so are batteries.
Yeah.
But if it's a stolen credit card, I can sell it for half the value and still make a fortune.
Yeah.
And then the diapers make it so whenever they get to the line, if the person asks for ID, the person can say, well, I got my baby. I just got to get these diapers home, man. I forgot my ID. And they might get a little bit of sympathy from the person behind the counter.
Yeah.
That's a stolen credit card. They know that.
Nobody ever asked for your ID.
If a woman is spending more time at home and less time on social media, she is going into a depression and will be depressed within 2 weeks.
If she say that part again.
If a woman is spending more time at home and less time on social media, she is about to go into a depression statistically.
Yeah, statistically. It's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
But what's happening is they're putting this information together on a scale that people can't fathom. So, like, my whole thing was what I was talking about with, like, smart appliances and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a big deal that you went to your fridge at 4 a.m. Right?
Right.
But if they can get 1 billion people that go to the fridge at 4 a.m, they can deduce the rest of our patterns throughout our day based on people that go to the fridge and have a snack at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Do they sleep in? Do they make more than $40K a year? Do they get married? Do they get divorced? Do they have kids? These are all statistical things.
But how do they turn that into a profit?
So once you know the behaviors of those people, you can then provide products that they will want to buy at the time they will want to buy them.
Okay.
So when you are depressed, people buy more things. Every time you buy something, you get a little bit of excitement and you hit the dopamine button.
It's the ding.
It's the ding. It's the dopamine button, right? So if I'm depressed, I am more likely to try to buy something to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
So they will get targeted ads specific to things that they are most likely to buy when in depression.
Okay. And then they'll get targeted ads when they're not in depression. They'll get targeted ads on things they're more statistically likely to buy when they're not in depression.
Yes. The problem is becoming that this is done in secret, where corporations absolutely know more about you than you do.
Yeah.
And it's also a disproportionate system. We know nothing about their algorithms, how they run, and what kind of analytics and data they draw from us.
Yeah.
Yet they know completely how to predict. And here's where it becomes a problem. Now they can influence. They can actually shape your buying patterns. They can put you into situations that make you want to do things.
I feel like I should unplug my Alexa right now while we're talking about it.
You should. So they can. They could put things on your Facebook feed, specifically to push you into that depression.
So that you will buy.
That you will buy those things.
Oh shit!
They can influence human behavior, and they're getting better and better at it. Pokemon Go, I brought that up a while ago.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go was created by Google under one of their shell corporations. I don't want to say shell. It's Alphabet is Google's top company. It's like their parent company, and then everything is branched under that. I'm sure your listeners know more about Pokemon Go than I do, but it's like Namco or Namco or something like that. They created this company, and they built Pokemon Go under that so people wouldn't know it was Google.
Yeah.
And you can go around with your phone and you can find Pokemons, right? That's it. They're super simple. There's nothing malicious or harmful about that. Nothing at all. In big cities, large corporations were paying Google to make sure that the Pokemons were either outside, very close by, or inside their business. So that it was actually an experiment. They know for a fact that they can influence your online shopping behavior.
Yeah.
They know for a fact.
Yeah.
It was an experiment to see if they could actually influence your physical shopping experiences.
That makes sense.
You go look for a Pokemon, you find it, you're like, sweet. Then you look up and you're like, oh, shoot, a Starbucks. I'm going to go in and get a coffee.
So, and you know for a fact that they were doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then Google is saying, hey, they found the Pokemon, and we know that because they recorded it.
Yeah.
Now did they go to Starbucks?
Right.
And they can also track that data. Yeah. So now they know how successful they are to guiding you into their businesses.
Especially if they're paying with their phone, because you can just do that now. They're like, okay, your phone just took that picture, then you just paid with your phone right there.
Yep.
That just made it easier.
It just made it even easier.
Yeah. Fuck.
The data that's being tracked is unbelievable. And so
do you think that is maybe part of the, because, some people are saying the coin shortage isn't a real coin shortage.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that.
Okay, fair enough.
because now we're going to start getting into my conspiracy theories, and I don't like to talk about things that I don't have a lot of facts to back me up on.
Yeah,
makes
perfect sense.
Yeah, I know a lot about this, and I could go into it, but then there would be an argument about whether or not these facts are real. Like, do you know that the Federal Reserve is not a national bank?
Explain.
So the Federal Reserve, which you've heard of,
Yes.
that makes our money.
Yes.
They give us our money.
Yes.
That we pay back in interest.
Correct.
Is a private bank.
Yes.
Owned by Europeans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the money that is being loaned to our country is being paid back plus interest out of the country.
Yeah.
And our income tax is the only, it literally, that's the only thing it pays, is the interest on the money that is loaned to our country.
Oh, great.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's actually theft. It's the biggest theft of all time, and I don't want to get into that. But the Federal Reserve is the United States. It's a for-profit corporation that is outside of the United States.
Yeah.
So our interest
are beholden to them,
to the shareholders, not to the United States, and so they are not there to make sure that our lives are better and that our economy is better and our economy is strong. It's to make sure that they're making money. Yeah. That's it. And so you can always and they won't let us audit them. And anytime we ask, they always say, no, we're auditing that for you.
Yeah, it seems weird that we would let that happen.
Well, we're a slave.
Not us, obviously.
Well, we have no choice.
Yeah,
we're indebted.
Yeah.
So, man, you could have me on another time, and we could go down that road, and then everybody can really think I'm crazy.
Yeah, I would love to go down that rabbit hole with you sometime. But yeah, that's not what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, no, it's not. And again, that's another 3-hour conversation for me. Yeah. Like, I will never shut up for 3 hours. Like, I know all of that stuff.
But really, I just wanted to know,
it's not. It's on purpose.
Yeah, with the coin thing,
sure,
because it's easier to track you if you're using your card.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can't get to a cashless society without it.
Yeah.
And with a cashless society, you can't do odd jobs. You can't have anything that is not taxed by the government, right? So
no under-the-table payments.
No black markets.
Yeah.
You can't operate in a black market, so you can't do anything that the government says. At that point, anything that they say is a black market can become a black market, and they can remove it from availability.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything the Federal Reserve has ever done has been on accident.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Well, it's been around for a while, and they're obviously good at what they do.
Yeah. Since the 1900s.
Yeah.
Early, like right after 1900.
Yeah. So, all right. So back to the tracking. We'll do that another time.
Yeah. Another time. So, I mean, and this does tie right into it, right? The whole thing is that they really want to know everything we do at all times so that they can create much better predictive models.
So this is just like the large companies that are really buying your information.
Correct. But because of that, so then, I mean, and I was just even alluding to it, that we're going to have to provide that for the companies that want to work with us.
Yeah.
They will not want to work with us if we don't provide them the analytical data.
Yeah.
So it basically renders you an invalid company if you choose to not participate.
Yeah.
So you are literally held hostage if you want to make it. It's that simple.
Like, you want to do these good things, but you're going to have to be part of this evil in order to do it.
I do. And so what I would like all your listeners to know is I am doing that specifically so I can raise enough money to franchise VRHQ and VRIQ so I can educate your kids with the money that I have so that they can be smart enough to break that system.
Right, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do those things.
I am playing inside the system to try to circumvent it.
Yeah. God, that's... Yeah, and I'm sure sometimes that's an inner struggle for you.
It is. I have to have complete faith in my moral compass
and in what you're trying to do
and what my goals are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you know, so my business partner, she said at one point, because we have some pretty high tickets. We have some pretty high quotes out there for the platform. Mm-hmm. Some of the companies that we've talked to are, just not simple contracts, but contracts for them are north of 100K.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money that can be made on the platform. And she was alluding to the fact that, I'm going to drop VRHQ and VRIQ like a hot potato, as soon as I start rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm like, no.
This is why I'm doing this.
This is to fund that. This is to make sure that never goes away.
Right.
Like, no. Like, I literally, I go to bed thinking about this. I wake up thinking about this. Like, the education and what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years when there's no jobs.
Yeah.
I want to help society. I always have. I used to be super political.
Okay.
So my whole thing was like, well, this politician says that, and he's bogus, and we need this, and we need that, and nobody's getting to the real thing. We need to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and blah, blah. And I had all these political things. But it's obvious that politics never change. It doesn't matter who comes in, who goes. It could be Democrat, it can be Republican.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We stay at war. We keep buying more bullets, more guns, stay in the same kind of engagements. We keep the same. So we operate at a deficit, right? We always buy. We never produce. And
do it as a country as a whole.
Yeah, all the time. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like school of thought that says, you know what, we should probably rein in the budget, operate on profit. Like, we'll get to a point
as humans
where we profit.
Just as citizens, we operate on negatives.
Sure,
you know what I mean. You're
but as a company, I do it the other way, right? So, like, for my business standpoint, I want to keep costs low, bring in money, so that eventually I can pay off all debt and get to profit.
Yeah.
So that every year I can then operate off of maximizing all of my profits.
Right.
That's what the goal of business is.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that unethically,
right,
which a lot of companies do to make more money.
Right.
But I want to make, profits. That's the goal. It's not the goal of the government.
Yeah.
They never have a plan to get into the black.
Yeah.
You cannot continue to do this and not one day pay the piper.
Right.
Right? And so it's hilarious to me that this is the way it goes. There's never change. So the government has done experiments to understand the human mind as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you 2 of them. And so the first one is called, okay, I'll tell you the name of it at the end. They took like 10 dogs. I don't know how many dogs. They took a bunch of dogs, and they split them into 2 groups, but they put them in the same area.
Yeah.
They put shock collars on all the dogs that were continually shocking the dogs. Half the dogs could push a button to turn the shocks off. The other dogs could not.
Okay.
So the dogs that could push the button to remove the shocks would actually quickly learn to push the button and kill the shocks.
Yeah.
The other dogs eventually just laid on the floor and took them.
Jesus Christ.
There was nothing they could do, so they just took it.
Yeah.
Right? So then they did another experiment with the same dogs. And there was a fence that if they jumped over the fence, it would eliminate the shocks. The dogs that learned that they could push the button to remove the shocks quickly learned to jump over the fence.
They were looking for the answer.
The other dogs laid on the floor and took the shocks. It's called learned helplessness.
Yeah.
So they understand learned helplessness. If you keep showing that there's going to be a change, like Barack Obama, black president. We've never had a black president. His whole platform at the beginning was change.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like, there's going to be a change.
Yeah.
And then he gets in. He says he was going to take us out of the wars. He was going to do. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
It was the same status quo over and over. It's learned helplessness.
Maybe the only thing was more drone killings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got worse. And that's even more. It's like we realize that there's nothing we can do to solve the situation. And so you're going to get a lot of people that just lay down.
Yeah.
So that's learned helplessness. And that is something that is in politics. They know they can do whatever they want, and most of the population has learned helplessness.
Yeah.
Now, the second one is generational. So they took 5 chimps, and they put the chimps in an environment that had a ladder. And at the top of the ladder was a bunch of bananas. And so chimps love bananas. So they would try to get up the ladder and get the bananas. Well, once they tried, they would spray them with high-powered fire hoses with freezing cold water.
Okay.
Well, chimps didn't like that very much.
Yeah.
So if one of the chimps tried to go up there to get the bananas, he waits a while. He's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go get them. They would rip him down and kick his ass before the water got turned on.
Because they don't want that water.
They don't want the water.
Yeah.
Right? So anytime a chimp tries to go up, they rip him down, they kick his ass.
Yeah.
So now they take a chimp out, and they put a new chimp in. That chimp immediately tries to go for the bananas. They rip him down, and they kick his ass.
Yeah.
Right? Over time, they replace another chimp, and then another chimp, and then another chimp, until all the chimps have been replaced.
Yeah.
If any chimp goes for the bananas, they snag him down and kick his ass.
Yeah.
But not a single chimp has ever been sprayed with the hose.
Okay.
You're teaching a behavior that will be generationally passed on.
Yeah.
And so once we accept a certain behavior from the government, from corporations, whether it's surveillance, capitalism, or whatever it is, once we accept it, the next generation will take it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
They won't even bat an eyelash.
Right. It just is what it is.
It just is what it is.
This is reality now.
And they don't ever even consider what the cause was in the beginning.
Yeah. Fuck.
And so they have learned how to do these things to humans in our minds,
Yeah.
so that we can be controlled on a very large level.
Fuck, that's crazy.
And now surveillance capitalism is... So I'll tell you about surveillance capitalism. Google almost went out of business in 2001.
Okay.
Right? Still a fledgling company. I mean, they were making a lot of money, but it was costing them a lot of money to do it too. And they had investors, and one of their really big investors was getting ready to pull out. And so at the time, they were getting tons and tons of data from people.
Yeah.
But they weren't respecting it for what it could be. But one of their people had mentioned or done a memo or something that they called it data exhaust. It was like,
okay,
like
fumes.
Yeah, it's a byproduct, and we just let it go.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, somebody inside the company wrote a memo, and it said, "There's actually predictive information
in here
in this exhaust.
Yeah,
and we're throwing it away, and we don't care about it." But well, they weren't throwing it away, but it was being like put into like slush files and dump files.
Right.
They're like, we're just like dumping it off to the side as like erroneous data. And they're like, but there's predictive stuff in here about the people that are doing these queries.
Yeah.
And so because they were about to lose their funding, they just had this idea. Well, what if we sold that information to advertisers? Right?
Yeah.
And so now here's the problem. Now back then, nobody was clicking that accept button. Oh, you want all my information, and you're going to track my phone, you're going to track my data, and you're going to turn on my camera if I don't, if you want to, my microphone, and accept.
No, thank you.
Well, now we hit accept.
Yeah.
Right?
Without even reading it.
Without reading it, yeah.
Yeah.
They learned that from somewhere too. Anyway, so now they didn't have that at that point because it wasn't something that was something that was intended to be.
Yeah.
So they took all that data, unbeknownst to the users who submitted that data, and started to compile this information that could then be sold to advertisers.
Right.
It was wildly successful.
Yeah.
Right? But it was illegal.
Right.
But here's the problem. A little event called September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
The government may have chose to decide that behavior was bad pre 9/11. But after 9/11, the government said, "Oh, what kind of predictive data do you have?"
Yeah. So now they have all the predictive data, and now they're going to make it legal because under the guise of safety.
Yes. So now the government got in bed with Google, and if you look at what Snowden released, it was called Prism.
Yeah.
And Prism was a bunch of top-level corporations that were specifically mining for data and then providing that data to the United States government unbeknownst to anyone.
Yeah.
So,
and then being able to use the rest of the data for whatever.
Right. For their own personal uses.
Yeah.
So because the government signed off on it and because the government never wanted you to know how much data they had, right? Because they didn't want people to get freaked out and be like, they know that about me? They know what? Because they literally do know your secrets.
Yeah.
They know the innermost thoughts and feelings that you have.
Yeah.
And that's sacred. That's private. That's what the whole Constitution is about, protecting our ability to be free, to have privacy, and to have the pursuit of happiness where we want to live the life that we want to live.
Yeah.
And they are undermining that. But the government was happy to let them because it also coincided with what the government want.
Right.
So what we needed at that time was an ability to regulate the data. So, for example, we could figure out car crashes. We can, from cell phone data, from all types of stuff, there's an accelerometer in your phone.
Yeah.
It knows if it speeds up or it slows down, right?
Yeah.
They can understand crashes based on stuff like that. They can interpret that data. They can get stuff like that. They could use that to prevent car crashes. But they won't give that information over to the public because they don't want us to know how that information was ascertained.
Right.
So we could be using these predictive models to actually benefit society and increase a standard of living for everyone.
Right.
But because it is done in the secret and in the dark and in the shadows, it's being used against us instead.
It's done for profit.
For profit.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we're not aware. So there was one guy, and he found out something similar to that thing where the women get depressed if they're home more and on social media. So people that have diabetes and can have I forget what it's called. If you go a long period of time without the proper amount of sugar or something, it can put your body into like a really catastrophic.
Yeah, like diabetic shock.
It's diabetic shock. You have a really bad episode. He learned that you can predict that data from time and stuff on social media and how much time you spend on your phone. And so people with diabetes can use that to understand when they're more likely to be going in to one of those shocks or whatever.
Yeah, I know that's not the term.
It's
I know,
not the term.
And I can't think of it either.
Yeah, and it's not just like when their sugar's low either. It's a really bad situation where it's life threatening.
Yeah.
So he got a hold of the companies and asked for his data. He suffers from the disease. He asked for his data so he could build predictive models that would save people's lives that were going into that situation.
Yeah.
And they denied him and said, "You have no right to that data. It's ours."
Jesus Christ.
Right.
That's fucking sinister. Like, how do you not have the right to that data to make sure to help people?
Because
like
their machines were the machines that deduced the data and got the predictions.
And that doesn't give them a profit.
Yeah, has nothing to do with you.
It's fucking wild.
Right. So the government, at that point, we should have had the beginning of legislation and conversations about how the surveillance part of capitalism could be used to our benefit and not against us.
Yeah.
But because the government was interested in the way that it was currently going, they also helped to make sure that it never came to light.
Yeah.
And here we are 20 years later. They've literally had 20 years to refine this, where they can actually predict and control our behaviors.
Yeah.
Surveillance capitalism.
Jesus Christ.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. Well, I think we're
the world. It's the world.
I think we're gonna end there in terrifying fashion, just because we're right around 3 hours.
Okay. I just want to say, people out there, I talked about a lot of negative stuff today. I talked a lot about a lot of
positive stuff
that
too,
is overwhelming. If you say to yourself that it's overwhelming and it's negative and it can't be changed, then it can't.
Yeah.
But if we say these things are happening, and if we take an active participation role in shaping our future, we can make changes to what's happening. And we can find ways to continue to keep human beings in the loop.
Yeah.
But we have to be willing to try and to look into that.
And not just lay down like the dogs.
And not just lay down like the dogs. There is a button. There is a way out. But we have to work together to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm very optimistic. I wouldn't be doing what I do. I wouldn't be so passionate about the education side. I wouldn't be like full bore, full tilt. Now, I am a little full bore and full tilt because I feel like the clock is ticking.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But so what I'm saying is find a way to jump in. And if you have kids, find a way to get them interested in their education. Make sure they get a secondary education and find a way to make them curious so that they start finding the answers that they want for themselves.
Yeah.
And if we can create the next generation to do that and also instill better emotional capabilities, we have a real shot at producing a generation who has access to infinite knowledge.
Yeah.
Who can create a better world for us. We're leaving them behind in a really bad way with global warming. I mean, some people aren't going to believe in it, but you can say climate change, right? Climate change and industrialization and automation and tremendous debt and wars, and we're leaving them behind all these problems to solve. Let's start trying to give them the tools they need to solve them.
Absolutely.
And that's the message that I have for everybody. That's what's important to me. It's why I wake up every day.
Yep. And I love it. That's awesome. I like what you're trying to do. Shout out your business, your website, and all that again.
VRHQ is the arcade. It's vrhq.biz. We have VRIQ, that is the education, and that is www.vriq-edu.
Okay.
.biz, and so it's a dash edu, not .edu.
Yeah.
So yep. And then the new platform is WeIgnite. I'm really not here to promote that one so much. We still have a lot of work to do, and our website is actually being built right now.
Okay.
So I'm not going to guide people to that website. If you do webinars or you have you do presentations or conferences or expos, if you do anything like that where you need to get a large group of people together in a COVID-19 world, you can find me by those other websites. I get all those emails come to me.
Okay.
So if you go to contact us on VRHQ.biz,
You'll get that.
You're going to get to me, and then we can figure out a solution. Now low end, we're looking at about like $1,500 to $2,000 for just a basic platform that you would be able to use over and over again.
Yeah.
With it's $500 membership fee every month to keep your functionality and environments on our server.
Yeah.
You can have custom environments, right? So you could have it where two people could like hit a button and go into their own chat room by themselves. Stuff like that. But if you don't want that, we're not going to put that in for you, right? So basic, you're looking at about $1,500, and you could have a platform where you can engage with as many people, up to 500 people at one time. And then it gets really custom and gets really high in functionality and analytics, and then we're talking like over 100,000. But if you had like a webinar, or you want to sell a product, or even like a podcast, those are things that you could do for around $1,500.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed this. I'm really glad you came on.
Awesome. Me
I'm
too.
definitely going to have you on again. I think we're going to go down some rabbit holes. You're obviously very intelligent. I'm going to actually have to listen to this again because I didn't even really kind of wake up till about 30 minutes in because I was working so late last night. But I'm really excited for this podcast. I think it's an important podcast, and I can't wait to do more with you, brother.
Awesome. I got a lot more to talk about.
All right, man.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Bye.
That was awesome. Thanks, man.
That was really good. That was better than I expected.
That was my whole life. It was like everything about me.